Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to episode 67 of Snarp Fangle Podcast. Yeehaw! I'm your host, Jake Metzger, as well as a stellar co-host who brings a prodigious energy to all those cohorts among the BGE subreddit, them DeviantArts, TikToks galore. Ladies and gentlemen, Lexi Metzger.
Hello. Nice to be back on the podcast.
It's good to have you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jake Metzger as Peyj.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Jade, where are you at, Jade? My toe jam stuck. All right, that's enough of that. For comments, concerns, thoughts, and hate mail, and what game you would want us to cover next, send your suggestion our way to snarpfanglepod@gmail.com. And if you're from the BGE subreddit, please let us know down in the comments below or send us that email, or you could just text Jake if you got my number.
Yeah, and a quick thing before we start the podcast and peak analysis and all that.
Don't hate Lexi, because she hates pig people.
No. To any Beyond Good and Evil fans who are listening, we're
sorry.
We're apologizing in advance if we get facts wrong, if we mess up on some of our details. We have been gone all day, and we're coming. Who knows how long we're going to be recording? And me and Jake both have
We're
been
tired, basically, is what she's saying.
Yeah, we've been trying to get our ducks in a row for a while. This podcast was supposed to be recorded 2 months ago, so.
Well, yeah, it's my fault. Let's be real. It is my fault. You said, I said, oh, what would be cool is if we do, I think you said this, we could do like a spoiler cast for Beyond Good and Evil. And I said, oh, well, we do the peak analysis thing, and I'm planning to do the first one with Angela. And then we did. And for those interested, we did one about The Haunting of Hill House, the Netflix show. That was our first entry of the peak analysis kind of Snarp Fangle episodes. And then we did 3 in a row about reviewing albums. So we did like Dark Side of the Moon by... Man, I really am blanking on the name. But anyway, we did Dark Side of the Moon, Out of Body by Need to Breathe, and Follow You Anywhere. I can't remember the artist for those other 2. But anyway, basically it's just like a spoiler cast where we take a piece of media, dive deep into it. And I'm excited to jump in with you today, Lexi, into the, full feet first into this Beyond Good and Evil universe. I mean, I just literally got done playing it 2-ish hours ago, roughly. For the very first time. I always knew how it ended, and that's something we can actually start off with is our history with it. But before we get into that, let's get into a general overview. But do you have anything to say before we get into the general overview? Anything as a preface as we dive into this peak analysis of Beyond Good and Evil?
All right, so this is a game that was done by Ubisoft in 2003, and it's like it starts out on this peaceful little planet in a place called System 4, and the place is just called Hillys, and there are oceans. There's a lot of really nice things in here, except for the fact that there is an alien force trying to take over the entire galaxy. And and now they're trying to attack this little piece of paradise that the main character, Jade, and her uncle live on. So, yeah, there's a lot of bad things. There's war, and people are disappearing, and people are dying, presumably. And so Jade gets hired by this group to kind of figure out what's really going on. And the whole thing of the game is that the truth is not always, just because it's said out there doesn't mean that what's said on the screen is the truth. So you get to discover the truth of the game. You get sidekicks.
There's conspiracy theories. There's Kronk himself in the game.
Yeah, there's it gets dark.
Kidnapping,
though.
human trafficking.
Yeah.
Not the way we normally know it, but what did I write in my notes? Invasion of the Body Snatchers, kind of human trafficking.
I'm not even. Yeah,
they're sucking energy out of humans. You know, which I guess you could technically say human trafficking is that, but we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about Beyond Good and Evil. So
it is a very dark game. It was originally rated T when it came out. Now it's rated E10 and up,
which is perfect. It's exactly where it's at.
Yeah,
I think it's dark. We can talk about that first if you want. Honestly, the rating itself, I think a teen is perfectly fine. I think E10 and plus is perfectly fine. The art style, which we're going to get into, honestly, it makes it more kid friendly than what they portray. Like, even especially the way the guards act, like they're kind of dumb, and that's kind of just a limit of AI back in the day in 03. And so you have the way they act, and but you also have the way they look. They're very menacingly looking, but also just the art style in general is kind of kiddie in a way, like a painterly art style, and it's pretty cool.
Also, at this
point
point in time, there was no E10 and uprating. That didn't come until the Shadow the Hedgehog game in like 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense. I mean, there is a word that is thrown in there that I was like, whoa, they kept that and still call this a E10
Is
and
it
up.
the S word?
No, so like
The D word?
the R word.
The retard?
No.
No? Wait, what R word are you talking about?
What?
Rascals?
No, it's a word for it's a not nice word. And they use it in the context of like, look at what these people are doing to our planet.
These rascals.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm not going to go any
These
farther.
fascists. I mean, that's what the game's about. Is about basically like, well, we're going to get into it, but let's dive into Lexi before we get into anything else. Let's dive into what our general thoughts are on the game for those who aren't aware of it. You did a great intro. But let's get into our thoughts of why we recommend it, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and then we'll do our deep dive.
Oh, no.
Go from there.
I have to go through the whole game just to tell you what I like. Well, like, first off...
Give it to me.
All right, so I put my top 3 things of why I love Beyond Good and Evil. And number 1 is Uncle Peyj, who's the sidekick, one of the sidekicks in the game. He's a pig, and I wrote, do I need an explanation? We must protect this pig. He is a national treasure. Number 2 is Jade. She cool, loves her uncle and protects the kids.
She cool.
Enough said. And then the story, with or without nostalgia, I still cry. And those are my top 3 things of the game. I did add a side note was the kids that live with Jade and Peyj, just because I've taken it upon myself to write fan fiction about it. It's wholesome fan fiction. It's a little sad, but it is wholesome. So, what about you, Jake?
Well, David Gassman is the dude who plays Peyj.
He also plays
was in
Rayman.
the Born Identity.
He also plays Rayman.
Interesting. He's got 1,000,001 credits on IMDb Media, obviously. He plays Rabid Mario in the Mario and Rabbids games. That's cool. Anyway, yeah, he's a very prominent voice actor. He plays a lot of people, but yeah, I would say Peyj obviously is great, but let's see. I just got done with this game. Why would I recommend it?
I would say the story.
I would say first the story. It's really interesting, like the way they present it. It's very much Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You're on basically Earth, but Earth is taken over by this like organization
Did you not hear what I said?
Well, I know you said planet, but I said it's basically Earth.
Yeah.
It's basically Earth. There's a lot of water and some land. So you're basically on Earth. It is in the future. You have a giant government that rules multiple sections of, I'm going to guess, different planets or different galaxies is my guess, or the galaxy.
Yeah. So in the game, they clarify that this planet has their own government, but the organization that you're taking pictures of and discovering the truth about, they came in and took over the government before they had any time to react to the war happening and the invasion.
Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what's the war about? It's between the Dom and...
The Doms are just going from planet to planet, and they're taking natural resources. They're taking mostly people. Nobody knows why they're
these are the aliens.
Yeah, the aliens. Yeah. Nobody knows why they're taking people. And I think later in the game they do clarify, like, oh, well, they need the people alive. And that's what you find out. You're like, wait a minute, why do they need the people alive? And that's part of the story and stuff. But
who's the government?
Oh, the bad guys?
Oh, Section Alpha, or Alpha Section, right?
Yeah, the Alpha Sections.
Yeah, they're the government, and they're the corrupt people who are... they got propaganda everywhere. They run the show on the planet, but they're in league with the aliens, and they don't want you to know. Kind of like if you ever seen that classic 2024 film, Transformers 1. It's basically the same plot. But this is more about, the whole game is you creating, exposing this conspiracy through photography as the main character.
And journalism.
And whatever.
She is a journalist. She's like a photojournalist.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, she's a journalist, she's a photographer, and it's about exposing this whole conspiracy between the corrupt government and the aliens that are in league with them. as well as in unique characters and character designs, as well as just really cool, a cool universe and a cool lore in that universe. I haven't dived super deep into the lore. I just know about the story of the lore, and especially how they connect it to what they want to be a prequel, which is supposedly up next, but we'll get into that later. But I would recommend this. Yes, the story is one aspect. The characters are really great. Like, every character is unique. Jade is great. Peyj is great. Andrew Carlson and Peters or whatever his name, Kronk, the night guy, he's great.
Double H.
Mama Gogo or what
No.
Mama Nagogo, all the Rastafarian rhinos are great, and just it's really charming when you dive into the game. And I kind of described the gameplay here. If you're interested, it's a third-person action type game adventure, and it's a sixth generation game, meaning PS2. If you played similar titles like Prince of Persia, Jack and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Pitfall Harry and the Lost Expedition,
I would say also
you'll have a good idea of what you're dealing with in terms of what kind of game you're going to play here.
Also, this is an off note. I don't know if this is official, but a lot of people say that this was Ubisoft's attempt at making a Zelda game. But that's just what people have said. I haven't found any official wording that says that. So, but I would say that there are some elements that are very similar, like the dungeons to Zelda, the main character, that kind of thing. And just like, fighting enemies, that kind of thing. Fast travel on some sort of vehicle with not a horse, but
it's not fast travel. You're traveling between things.
Yeah, you're traveling.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's older, 20 years. I played the 20th anniversary, and so did you. You didn't. I don't know if you finished it, but I finished it just a little bit ago.
So I got right before you go up to the very end of the game, the last part of the game.
It's so funny. So I remember the Beyond Good and Evil HD I remember purchasing on Xbox Live Arcade.
Yeah.
And that was like my very first Xbox Live purchase, basically. Like, it was $5. I got that. Played through like 2 hours and then dropped it. Always wanted to go back to it. And then you played that, completed that, and then dove into the 20th anniversary but didn't finish it. I didn't finish the HD version but finished the 20th anniversary. So it's kind of funny how it's like a polar.
And neither of us have played the original one on Xbox.
We played a little bit,
I didn't really
I played
play
like
it
an hour of it.
It was a T-rated game.
Yeah, you were little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I go into how we discovered Beyond Good and Evil really quick?
Yeah, well, before we get into that, real quick, I do want to just say that it's very readily available. It's on Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation. On that, it's even on last gen PS4 and Xbox One. If you want to go that route, it's great on Steam Deck, which I played part of it there as well. And
the
on
20th
sale,
anniversary edition.
Yeah, the 20th anniversary edition. Also on Steam, you can get the original, I believe, still. But I highly don't recommend it. Like, I downloaded that version on Steam Deck, and it was locked to like 480p in some cases, especially with the cutscenes. And then when it goes to gameplay, it'll go to whatever resolution you're doing. But it's just an older title. It's not really optimized for modern systems, I would say. But
it's still a good, like, if you want to feel nostalgia for games from like the 2000s and the 90s, like I would recommend the HD version. Yeah,
HD version is good. It's on Xbox with backwards compatibility. But the 20th anniversary, highly recommend it. It delivers the same thing, but with a crisper coat of paint. And the art style has really stood the test of time.
They really didn't have to do much in terms of fixing things up. Like Peyj, they fixed them up. They gave him textures. They actually gave him eyeballs. He kind of looks a little scary in the original, but I dig that because I'm like, oh, it's just like the Xbox when we played on original Xbox. But yeah.
And it's only $20 full price. Highly recommend it. If even for that price, I think it's great. I picked it up, I think, for $12 on Steam, which is a great deal. It's also that on Epic Game Store, as well as on Switch. You can get it for that low as well. I see it on here. It's that low on Switch.
Unless you're like me and I went on limited run games and I bought copies of the game for physical, and yeah.
It's definitely a classic, and I understand now the reason of why there's so many people that, it's a cult classic in quotes. And I think I would put it right up there with like Assassin's Creed, Prince of Persia, all the Ubisoft staples. Yeah. Honestly, like, it's that good. And it has a uniqueness and genuineness to it you don't see in a lot of modern titles, especially from Ubisoft. So, But Lex, how did we discover this game?
Alrighty, so
let's get into it.
the first time we ever discovered it was when we had bought a copy of The Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, or someone had given it to us. And on the back of the booklet was an ad for Beyond Good and Evil, because if you guys didn't know this, the Beyond Good and Evil came out 3 weeks after The Sands of Time.
Really?
Yeah. So it came
What?
out November 11th, 2003, and I don't remember if Prince of Persia came out in October.
Let me look that up.
But
That's crazy.
So it was on there, and one of our sister Chelsea put it on her wall, and she cut out the back and she put it on her wall. So
Yeah.
I saw it like almost pretty much every day, not thinking anything about it. And then the first time I ever went into a GameStop, they had a bunch of Xbox games that were like $5 or less, and Beyond Good and Evil was one of them. And Chelsea and Adelaide, her twin, picked it up and they bought it. And I remember walking out there and going, "Wait a minute, I know this cover." And then they stuck it in, and we watched them play it, and we were just enthralled by it. We were just feeling all of the emotions that were happening with everything in the game. And like I still have this habit of like being in a room with someone when they're playing a game and like being very invested in what they're playing. Like I just like associating like certain things. Like I have a lot of memories with like Super Smash Bros. But I have it like, oh, I remember being in this room with this person playing through the story mode. Or like when I was obsessed with No Straight Roads in 2020, like I associated that with my nephews and showing them this game for the first time and them just being like, this is a music game. And so like I like tying memories to things that like specifically video games that I play, because it just makes it even more special for me and stuff. I remember as soon as Allie and Chelsea finished it, they started it over, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, is this even legal to start over a game as soon as you finish that? I was 9, by the way, so 8 or 9.
So yeah, I remember Adley and Chelsea playing this, and I remember we were going through Prince of Persia. I think Thad got it, and then our older brother, and then Adley and Chelsea, our twin sisters who are older than us, they got it, and they were playing Prince of Persia, and we were looking through the covers, and behind the pamphlet was the advertisement for Beyond Good and Evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking up online here, and so Beyond Good and Evil and Prince of Persia came out in November of 2003, which is crazy, man. Like, that's insane. Like, to have those two titles that close to each other.
It's even crazier when I'm going to get into this a little later, but is that they were both made with the same game engine, and the game engine was made specifically for Beyond Good and Evil.
Yeah, the Jade engine.
Yeah, they called it the Jade engine after that. And then the Jade engine ended up making a lot of like Ubisoft's titles. Most of the Princess Persias they did afterwards, like up until like 2011 maybe. It's been a while. I found out, and this made me laugh really hard, was that the first Just Dance was made with the Jade engine.
Interesting. Well, I think that, they carried that engine over quite a bit. And so it's really interesting. I even think, I'm going to look that up. I don't know if Assassin's Creed is on that engine. I wouldn't be surprised. But especially for that next generation of consoles, you'd imagine there's just a new version of the engine.
Well, yeah.
More optimization.
I think if I look at my notes, I wrote some details about the Jade engine.
Yeah, while you look that up, I would say that this game holds a special place in my heart because very specifically, I remember watching our older siblings play through it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's quite a few games like that, honestly, like this, Prince of Persia.
I would say Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina of Time. Even the end of the first Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, watching them beat it was so, like, paramount as a little kid who was so little at the point that I couldn't beat any games like that. But I would have to say that, this is
one of those good games.
This is one of those really good games. And the vivid memory I have of Beyond Good and Evil is and I won't spoil it, but we're watching the end credits.
There's a kicker.
And then there's a kicker. And we were like reminiscing about the game as it ended, and we were talking about the story and all the cool stuff that happened and the characters. And then that end credits comes up. And I remember as a kid being freaked out, but in a good way, like super intrigued, like, holy cow, that's amazing. When's the next one coming out?
Mm-hmm.
And then we never got it, but
we'll go into that a little later.
Yeah, but it was really cool, and that kind of cemented a memory to me as I grew up and as I'm a grown man now. because now going back and playing it, I'm like, why was this so special? And to really understand it and to play it, I'm like, oh, this is good. Like, this is not like a very dated, like the art style really holds up well. The game mechanics is from that generation, so it's not super
The use of
amazing.
CDs made
The use of CDs is awesome. I love that. It makes me a little nostalgic, but it also kind of fits with this world, like this weird world that we're in.
It's like it's like thousands of years into the future.
Yeah. And it's cool. Well, it's also like they're emailing each other back and forth. You know, they're using email, they're using CDs.
Yeah.
Some of the music kind of sounds very early 2000s, especially some of the chase scene
Oh my gosh.
music.
Yeah.
And so it's really, and also I think the original had MIDI music as well. So versus the full orchestral remastered track in the 20th anniversary.
Yeah, the remaster. If you want to listen to some of that is on Spotify.
So good, bro.
Not all of the tracks are my favorite, but the Hillyan tracks, those are beautiful. Like the composers just went all out on some of those. It's very gorgeous, and I just love putting my headphones in, driving home from work, and like you get to the farmland where we live, and it's just like I'm home. It's playing the home track.
Yeah, and honestly, the stuff they've added, especially into the 20th anniversary, the little cutscenes you can find, little trinkets from the other characters that like Peyj knew and everything. And I don't know that much about the lore. I'll have to talk to you about it. We'll have to talk about it because there's characters that are referenced from the perceived sequel they've been in development for the last
18 years.
No. 18 years. But the characters specifically we see that have been added to like some cutscenes in this 20th anniversary is really interesting because I'm like, okay, I know what you're doing. You're kind of preparing the audience who are buying this, for nostalgia reasons to get ready for the next game. And it's a prequel. But honestly, I think you guys should go back to the original idea and make a sequel, but we'll get into that.
Like, so the original idea was that.
Well,
I just want.
Yeah, we can get into it.
I just want to quickly say that by the time they got done making Beyond Good and Evil, this first one, they wanted it to be a trilogy of games. That's why this game ends on a cliffhanger, and also they wanted to make more because they had to cut some ideas, and they felt like the story they were telling now wasn't the one they had originally started out with in some ways, especially where how far Jade had come as a character. We wanted to do more origin stuff, but then they had time restraints. They had people in the team getting taken and worked on Prince of Persia or other Ubisoft titles.
Yeah.
So it's so I kind of wish it would have become a trilogy of games. But I think like I don't know if it was because it didn't have good timing or like why did they release it 3 weeks after Prince of Persia, which broke records? Yeah,
exactly. Like Prince of Persia is the big fall blockbuster of that year. And then also this is 2003, so it's like the year before one of the greatest years in video games where you had 2004 where it was like Half-Life 2, Halo 2, Tom Clancy 2, like or Splinter Cell, I should say, but and Metal Gear Solid 2, like all these amazing generational like dedicated games. And 2003 was also a good year, but it's interesting because Ubisoft they did an EA of 2016 where EA released Battlefield 1 and Titanfall 2 literally a week apart. It's like, what are you doing? But back then was different. It's not as saturated as it is nowadays with the games industry and what's being released.
Yeah.
Also, no digital markets were available. This also was a year before Steam even came out, so you wouldn't even have a chance of getting a digital market.
The internet was still kind of new, so...
Well, yeah, it was new-ish, but you had AIM, you had all these other things.
You had Xbox Live, which I didn't know existed until 5 years ago on the original Xbox.
You didn't?
I did not.
You didn't know about Halo 2?
I didn't even know that there was like online functions with the GameCube until several years ago.
Yeah. Well, that's Japan and all that kind of stuff.
It was in the US, but
did you know PS2 had it too?
I did not know that.
Yeah, so in the original PS2, you can get like an adapter that's a network add-in card.
Something we could never obtain where we live because we lived in the middle of cows.
We lived literally in the Hillys, like in the boonies, we'll say.
Yeah,
so.
We lived a mile from a slaughterhouse too, so...
That's true. That's a good point, Hop, skip, and a jump, and we're there. So, Well, speaking of hop, skip, and a jump, let's hop, skip, and a jump into the story, or whatever order you want to do this in.
Okay, I kind of...
Because I have a bunch of stuff written, separated by like story, gameplay, graphics, mechanics, music.
Okay.
As well as like, we'll end our whole discussion with what we would want to see in a sequel, pre/prequel, as well as like a film adaptation or show adaptation. So we'll end it with that. But what do you want to start off first? Do you want to do some characters? Just want to talk about the story?
I kind of want to let's start in the beginning. What does the beginning?
In a beginning where furries took over the world.
Oh my gosh.
And they evolved.
I apologize, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, I don't know what kind of weirdos you're bringing over from the BGE subreddit, but I just want to say welcome. You're here, but
I am here to offend you.
There's a little furry codedness in this
gosh.
game. Just a hint.
It's not
just a hint of it in here, you know? It's not like front and center, but like we got goat people, we got Rastafarian rhinos, which
There's
I love.
the cat lady.
Mama go garage. Oh yeah. I love it. It's so good. And that's the kind of uniqueness and genuineness that Michael Ansel really brought into this game.
He wanted it to be very like multicultural. I think
very multicultural.
Yeah, I think the track, it's
But
called
in a good way, I would say.
the bar song Propaganda. It's called officially. It's in the 20th anniversary. It's called Akuta House Propaganda because that's the name of the bar. That one is a mixture of like a bunch of different languages.
It's so cool.
It literally has the lady talking in the beginning of it is a phone call the composer had with it was a lady from Belgium. I could be wrong. It was from a different country, and so. I just think that was really cool that he added it in. Someone on the subreddit said there's even a version of that where the composer got everybody in the office to shout propaganda.
That's cool.
I don't know like where that version is, but it's a very beloved version. It's a very beloved track of the game. But anyway, back to the opening of the game. The opening just gives us like, okay, there's a news report. They're all like, this war is coming to this peaceful little planet. And then you see a shot from space and meteors are coming towards, and you hear this guy like saying like, oh, with the help of these people, we can destroy them. And then suddenly it just fades. And this really calm music starts playing. And suddenly you see like the sun rising and you see this girl and this little boy just like meditating or greeting the sun, and this music is just so beautiful. You see seagulls, it's just very lovely, and then all of a sudden the sky goes green. And here's what I love about this beginning. I tell people, I said, if you want to know what this like, if you really want to experience this game, play the first 5 minutes, which is just this opening. And like this opening is one of my favorite moments in video games of all time. I would say it's number 2 if I had a top 5. But it gives you a good idea of just this was a peaceful planet, but these aliens attacking are just making things difficult. And so you find out that this is a lighthouse, and the girl who we find out is named Jade because her name literally shows up on the front. Like,
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
You hear like the camera and everything goes black and white, and then it says Jade. And I'm like, I love that introduction. And she's trying to turn on the shields. And then they come on, and she's like, yes. And then all of a sudden, the meteors are coming down, and the shields give out, and it says, oh, your account is empty. You have no money. We're turning off all the power. And she's like, you have got to be joking me.
And as the aliens are invading and raining on fire on the land, basically.
And then they land in front of the entrance of the lighthouse where all these kids who are staying with her, you find out later who they are in the game.
We'll just say it's an orphanage.
Yeah.
That's all you got to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, the orphaned kids, like the thing lands down and boom, they get sucked down to the ground with the thing.
And then all of a sudden the music gets really quiet, and all of a sudden like you hear this chanting, and these snake-like weird skeletal creatures come out, and inside of their chests are each of the kids. And
they have big crystals in their chests in a vertical line, and the kids are like trying to peek through it like, help us out.
Yeah, and then their bodies go limp, and then all of a sudden these opera voices start singing and chanting in the background, and the girl grabs a piece of thing that's on fire, and you have to start fighting these monsters.
You're just thrown into it.
Yeah, you are just there's
cool.
like no
tutorial.
Yeah, no tutorial. This is the tutorial. You're thrown into this whole thing, and you're having to attack them. Once you defeat these dom creatures, suddenly the kids fall out, and the girl's like, go hide and stuff like that. And you have to save them. As soon as you save so many of them, suddenly the game goes into slow motion and this choir just a cappella starts singing while you're attacking in slow motion. No, it's like da, da,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and like you're just fighting it. And when I live streamed this a few months ago on one of my accounts, I said, I can just fight this last guy, guys, but I'm just gonna let this music play. And so I just let that whole last part of the song play. And then once you defeat it, everything goes silent. Jade is looking around. She's seeing where these things are. Suddenly these roots come up off the ground. They grab her and they pull her into the hole. And suddenly she sees like this weird spider.
Yeah, there's like tentacles wrapped around her, like, "Arr."
Yeah, and she can't move. And then starts like hypnotizing her and you don't really know what's going on. And then she passes out and then she hears the voice of someone who is just amazing. And that...
And what does he say?
Chili cheese carne.
No, he says her name. He's like,
Jade.
and he's like, I'm
Jade,
coming. And
I need your help,
this,
Jade.
and then out of this little window pops this giant
My
pig
tomato
guy.
soup is cold, Jade.
That's not what he says.
He talks about food when he's fighting because he was a cook.
Like,
We don't find out that until way later.
yeah.
Unless you watch one of the E3 trailers.
But
for
then
the
it
second
like
one.
does the thing like when it introduced Jade where it goes black and white and then it goes Peyj.
Peyj.
And he literally lands on top of this creature and he throws her a staff and he's like, I'll create a diversion, Jade. And then the fighting music comes back, like the chanting.
Yeah, and then it's okay, we're back at it.
And then this is the only thing. This is the first instructions they give you. They go, "Oh, hold down this button," and it gives you an attack. And you're like, okay." So then you keep fighting, and you keep fighting, and you're just in the background. You hear, "In the eye, Jade, that's the Achilles heel." I have not watched this a million times.
You know word for word. Let's be real.
Yes, I know a lot of this game word for
So what does he say? He's not chili cheese carne. What does he say?
when he jumps out?
Yeah.
He says,
Chili cheese.
He says, "I'm a coming."
Oh, yeah. In the trailer, he says chili something.
Yeah.
We just got done watching the reveal trailer or whatever.
Yeah. But like you're attacking, you're doing all this stuff. More of those skeletal things are coming out. Peyj is literally grabbing rocks and throwing them at him, and he gets caught on fire within 30 seconds. And then
I'm on fire, Jade.
he doesn't attack. Here's the funny.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole, Jade.
So here's the thing, like whenever we talked about this game, the thing we always mentioned was, "Oh, that was a good story," and "Oh my gosh, the kicker," and last but not least, Jade. Like, and he only yells that like that 3 or 4 times in the game. And
I don't have any toes, Jade.
So
I got hooves. I'm a pig.
Oh, no, he probably has feet, actually.
he does.
Because he has hands.
He has like
Yeah, he's
3
got feet.
fingers. Yeah.
Good thing. Thankfully, we don't see him. So we do have his shoes, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But anyway, you're fighting
yeah.
in the game, and then when you defeat the thing, you get a magical thing called a pearl. It's like a giant crystal ball thing. You get introduced to how the storage system works, and then the people called the Alpha Section show up. They save you. They bring you out of the hole. And then the reporter guy from the beginning is like, "Oh, hey, look at the Alpha Section saved these orphans that are just that were in danger." And then right as Jade comes out of the hole, he's like, "Miss, you want to give us a word there?" And she's like, and then Peyj comes out right behind her and he's like, "Well, you guys came late," and he's like giving them heck for it. And then they're all like, "Okay." They're like, "Look, you don't."
Yeah, they shut down the cameras. They're like, "No, you can't talk bad about the government."
What's funny is that
Basically.
they actually do keep that in their report if you listen in the workship on the radio.
Oh, really?
They keep that, but they change his words. Because when he comes out,
They
he goes,
do?
"You guys aren't as fast as a speeding bullet." But when they fix the audio, so he goes, "You guys are as fast as a speeding bullet."
Dang. That's
And then they
so
cut it
messed
there.
up.
And then
That's
they cut it
crazy. Yeah,
But-
see how corrupt it is, man.
Yeah, that's just how corrupt these people in the media are. And then when you and then after they leave, Jade passes out, and that's the first 5
I
minutes
forgot
of the
she
game.
passes out.
Yeah. And then later they bring her back into the lighthouse and she wakes up there and you don't have any power. So you're like, what do you do now? There are animals outside trying to attack the lighthouse. And Jade, this is when you find out she has an AI companion named Secundo, who is tall and what some people said that they couldn't tell if he was Latino or if he was Italian.
Oh, are you talking about the AI?
Yeah.
He's Mexican, bro.
I don't. I'm
He's
not gonna guess.
100% Mexican,
I'm not
bro.
gonna guess the.
I just got done hanging with a bunch of Mexican friends, and yeah, he's 100% Mexican.
And so he gets Jade a job.
Or maybe
where,
he's from Spain or something. This is Ubisoft. They're from France, so
yeah.
they're from France. So most likely, he's from the neighboring country,
Maybe.
Spain.
I don't know. But so he ends up getting Jade a job where she can use her camera to take pictures of animals because with all the war going on, the science center wants to know what kind of animals live on the planet and what species live there. That includes the people too. So that gives you a job to get the lights on. And then you get a mysterious thing, and that is basically just the beginning of the game. And I love that. Like the beginning is very memorable for me because there's no like you said, there's no introduction. You are literally just thrown into the middle of this story.
I mean, there is an introduction. There's the news reporter. He kind of lays out what's going on in this world, which is like necessary, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the whole thing you just said with her and the goat boy meditating, and then you get all the invasion.
Yeah.
So yeah, this opening's very, very good, very solid. It reminds me of some of the better openings in the wider gaming landscape, such as like Doom 2016. Like you kind of are like, whoa, you're the chosen, and then boom, there you wake up and demon attacks you. You get out of bed and boom, you have a pistol. You're like, oh shoot, okay, we're playing now. All right. And that whole intro of that game is great, as well as many other examples, I'm sure. But yeah, I think this one holds up. It also like does a really good job just introducing us to Peyj, the relationship between him and Jade. That was basically father and daughter, but it's uncle and niece, and it's super cute, and it's great, and they love each other, and it's like super heartwarming and super emotive too. That's one thing I really like about this game is that, especially in the art style, like the art style has stood the test of time, and you can tell because in the new one, it sort of, it looks more crisper, but it's basically the same thing. It's the same art style. And it's like this comic booky kind of, I guess that's how I would describe it, is like a little comic booky kind of art style, but also it's like maybe a French comic book is how I would say.
Okay.
But
I forgot.
Yeah, they emote way better than the characters in Prince of Persia. They have limits, but they know those limits, and a lot of the stuff you can see in this game in terms of art direction is very intentional. And very smartly planned out too. I mean, even if you see some of the the beta footage that we got to see a little bit, it's pretty cool to see the direction they took with it to kind of make it more stylistic than kind of realistic.
Also, like I kind of forgot this until like a few seconds ago, but like when we got the HD version, our nephew Josh, oh gosh, he must have been.
He was like, let's see.
He must have been like 4 or 5, and he loved playing video games. So like he loved playing Minecraft and stuff. So like when we got it, I said, "You want to see this really cool game?" I should not have shown it to him.
Oh, he was like 5?
Yeah, and I was in the beginning. The kids get captured, and it's kind of freaky. And then I was like,
"It's just so you guys are,
and
just so you're aware." Like, see, he was used to just watching stuff like Little Einsteins and Handy Manny.
Oh my gosh!
And you show him this thing with like tentacles wrapping around Jade and dragging her down, and the kids getting kidnapped and sucked into aliens.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh no,
and a giant talking pig man who's from the South. I mean, it's horrifying.
And I'm like, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake. So I never showed it to him. And then like a few years ago, this is why I bought the HD version, was because he was doing homework at the house. And I was like, oh look, because I was updating. I'm like, hey, this is on sale. I'm just going to buy it. It's only $4. And he's like, oh, I remember that. And I was like, you remember that? Okay.
But only in a good way. It didn't traumatize me, as he like twitches a little bit.
I don't think that's how
we love you, Josh. You're great.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, we love you.
He's definitely listening to it. But yeah, he should. Josh, if you're listening, you need to finish it. It's really good.
Yeah, it will work on your laptop when you.
It will. Well, yeah, that too. Yeah, it'll work on your laptop whenever it gets fixed. But yeah, also the PC and Switch and stuff. So.
He walked in on me when I was playing it a few months ago, and I was trying to take a picture somewhere, and he goes, "I didn't realize that this game has more than just." Going in the mines and stuff. Because he watched me
in the mines.
Or he's like, I didn't realize how open this world really felt. Because he was watching me try and take a picture, and I had to jump over a barrier to take a picture of a whale. And I was trying to take it right when the sunset hit. So I like was just sitting there in the water waiting for like the sun to lower down into the sky. And he was just like, oh my gosh, this is really pretty.
Yeah, that whole first mission where you go with Peyj and you're going through like the island and everything, it's pretty cool. And especially as he like, you're working together, you're making sure the kids are okay, you're taking pictures of the kids because they're freaks of nature. You then also,
Ow!
well, hey, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. But
I mean, their models aren't the best, but
well, especially the dog. Wow, have you seen the dog? Have you seen the beta footage of the dog? He's just got stickers as eyes. He's like on the top of his head, like
at least they aren't like googly eyes or something.
Yeah, well, they sure do look like them, but yeah, that first mission is kind of cool.
Hey, the dog is very lovable. Lorna can back me up on that. Like, she cared more about the dog than the kids, so.
I know. I'm like, dude, them kids, bro.
I'm like,
bad for
they're
them.
orphans, Lorna.
They're orphans!
And she's like, it sucks to be the children, I guess.
Well, I mean, if you're a kid, yeah, it kind of sucks to be a kid until you're an adult, and then it just sucks in general.
I'll let
to
you
be
know
alive.
that my friend that I mentioned, she's really good with children. She really does like children. This is just something funny when she was playing the game, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, so should we go on to the next part of the
Yeah, let's
black-
kind of combine that and the factory together
Okay.
a little bit.
So the first mission you go on is the Black Island, and that's an old volcano. It's an old mine. It's pretty much been abandoned for a good while. And you meet this guy, and he brought a floating, like they have hover cars and stuff like that. And he brought a limo into the mine.
Oh, yeah!
And this guy's like, oh, my boss is Mr. Castellek or whatever. And he's like, he wants you to go down because there's a dom at the bottom of this mine shaft. Could you take a picture of it? And he's like, he knows that if you want to back out of this. And then Jade's like, oh, okay, I'll take a picture of it. I need the cash. And then like as he's walking away, he's like, remember, we need these 2 aliens. And she's like, I'll get you, earthworm. But like the whole mission is you learning how to work with not only the partner, but also just showing that relationship Jade has with Peyj, because there's like a part where like you're trying to figure out how to get up on this ledge. And he's like, Jade, I've been working on an invention the last 2 years in secrecy. And he's like, I give you the jet boots. And
yes, I forgot about that.
yeah, and then like he goes, it's the transportation of the future. You squeeze your abdominal muscles. He really says that.
I forgot he says that.
And then like it doesn't work. And like he gets up and he's like, so there. And Jade's like, cool. And then like you use that to jump on something so it launches Jade up onto this ledge. And what I love the dialogue there, she's like, wow, why didn't you tell me about this sooner? And he's like, he goes, it's still a work in progress. And then she looks over and she's like, don't change a thing. It's perfect the way it is. And I'm like, that is just
That's so adorable.
Like, I made a point to say this on the live stream when I was live streaming it, is even though I only had 2 people watching, was that like she didn't make fun of him. Like, like obviously, like she does joke with him about stuff, but like to see that like she didn't put him down, or she didn't go like, oh, way to go, it didn't work, and stuff like that. But like it just shows like how much she loves him and stuff. And like there's lots of other incidences in the mine where like he gets attacked. And so she has to go and save him and stuff. And then like there's a part where like they're trying to fight these monsters, and like she had just given him like a weapon that they found, like an old like wrench, and he's using it to smash just all these animals. And she's like, you like your new toy? And he's like so happy. And like you go through it and you're just taking pictures and stuff like that. There's like a side thing that I missed the first time I went through the game, and you go into like this little cavern and it starts playing this track, and this is like the only time I think this track plays in the game. It's called the song's called The Thoughtful Reflection, and it's just a piano, and it's just you taking pictures of stuff, and Peyj is like, oh, this reminds me of a kiwi sauce thing that my Aunt Geneva made. But I just really like that track. It's very calming. Like often I'll listen to it when I'm getting ready for bed, because it's so relaxing. There's so much of the soundtrack that's just like super relaxing. Like despite the fact like there is like really loud and really 2000s music for the soundtrack. But like I just like there's just so much about like also this I forgot to mention in my notes, the first level this when they were like doing demos at E3 for Beyond Good and Evil way back in like 2001, 2002, the Black Isle was where they tested a bunch of stuff. So the developers, when they were working on this game, really liked this first level because they spent so much time working on it and trying to fix any glitches or bugs and trying to figure out how the UI worked with your buddy companion to make sure it worked so that way it actually followed you and it didn't like accidentally like phase through Jade and stuff like that. And like, by the time you get to the bottom of the shaft, through all of this bonding and stuff, you find out that the two creatures is actually one creature, and it sets you up for a boss fight, which Peyj, and like, if you don't notice some things, Peyj will be like, take a picture, Jade! Take a picture!
Which is really funny, like to get the player to get used to the mechanic, which helped me along too, because I'm like, I don't want to take no stinking pictures, but you kind of need it, especially as you get into the later game. You need money to buy some stuff, so you kind of need that too.
Also, the taking the pictures is part of several of the missions you go on.
Oh, that's the key factor of every mission, pretty much. And honestly, like to touch on that real quick, I'm really like I hate taking pictures in games. Like I won't play no Pokemon Snap or anything. You know, I just dislike that kind of feature. Or maybe in Breath of the Wild, like I'm like I could care less about collecting all these images of all these
Cambodium or whatever.
Yeah, I could care less about this. Like I don't care, and thankfully it's optional. But in this game, at first I'm like, I don't want to do this. But as you go through the game, it's kind of like they do a good job of transitioning into it and making it not just necessary, but entertaining as well. Like every picture you take, most pictures you take, you'll get a voice clip from the people you're sending it to. He's like, hey, great job, Jade. I'll send this in pub. Send this in the file, you know.
Peyj is getting eaten by a monster and they don't even address that.
Oh, wow. Great job. You're literally in a boss fight. That's great.
Jade, why are you in the bottom of a factory drain? And
yeah, what's going on, Jade? You know? But
why are you in space?
Well, also you get money for it too, which is one of the ways to get a lot of money. So I think there's only two ways. It's like collecting it throughout the world in the boat, and then this, and that motivates you also to do it because like, okay, I kind of need money.
The reason they did that thing in the beginning where the electricity goes out and you have to, and it begins with you having to get your camera and take pictures of species and people and stuff like that, was because the creators wanted to shy away from Jade's true identity and not make realize that because she is the hero of the game, but they didn't want the players to think of that as being obvious. So like everything with like, okay, you need money, this and this and this, and then later when Peyj, he's like, oh yeah, this disc came for you, and Jade gets upset at him, and she's like, why didn't you tell me about this sooner? It could be a mission, because you know she's trying to think of money, and I'm sure she's thinking about like the kids, and she's like, she's probably thinking like, I don't want that to happen again when we run out of money and stuff like that. And like the beginning of the game just kind of shows just how bad they are because their only mode of transportation is broken.
Yeah, and you have to fix it.
And they get the electricity on to like jumpstart the battery, and as you're driving to the garage, which is literally a hop, skip, and a jump away from the lighthouse, like everything's like smoking. I forgot to bring this up.
I forgot about it, yeah.
And she's like, oh no. She's like, come on. And then like it dies, and he's like, it was only a few meters away. And then like the Rastafarian Rhino send a thing, and it pulls you into the garage, and as soon as you get to the garage, he's like, get me out of this tuna can, and like the door opens and they both jump out, and it's just black smoke rising, and she's like, oh my god, it smells like bacon in there.
Yeah, going back to why I say keep forgetting about this is that I played the first like third of this game like 5 months ago, and then I just finished it this like week, basically.
Weren't you playing it in between the fires when you were on the fires?
I was going to, but the Ubisoft like save sync doesn't work very well. Like when you boot up the game, you have to be connected to the internet.
Curse you, Ubisoft
which
Connect
is really
Plus.
really sucky. Which is kind of nice in a way because they have a feature where you can upload your save from one device to the next, which is super cool. Like I was able to play on my PC, upload the save, and then download it on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. But yeah, Ubisoft, they still suck so bad when it comes to online DRM. Like, especially with the Steam Deck. Like, I want to play my Trials Evolution and Trials Rising. But like, dude, you make me sign in every single time while I'm offline. Why?
On the Xbox version, when I played the 20th anniversary edition, they won't let you go forward with the game unless you have a Ubisoft account. And so what I did was I said sign in, and what I did was I waited 2 seconds, and then I pushed B and it said, "Oh, it can't sign you in. There's been an error," and then it just has the game menu.
Yeah, it just loads up. Yeah,
the Switch version doesn't even do that, and I was
the Switch version is the only version that doesn't require internet.
It will
what
say,
the heck, dude?
It will say like, oh. Like when at the part where the hovercraft breaks down, it came up with a giant like purple block in the middle of the screen, kind of not in the actual middle, but to the side.
Yeah, to the side. Yeah,
and it said, "Oh, hook up to your Ubisoft account." And like I was live streaming, and I'm like, "Go away!"
So every time I got an achievement, I didn't get it through Steam. I actually got it as part of their Ubisoft service.
Yeah.
So which was kind of annoying because I look at my Steam account and I got 3 Steam achievements after playing 8 hours of this game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Come on, y'all! Like sync up them saves, man, or sync up the achievements. But
getting back to the Black Isle mission.
Well, I want to go back to that, but before we do, I want to touch on their relationship a little bit because I think that's definitely worth noting because. You mentioned earlier how he does this thing with this rocket boots and he fails, and then she's like, "Hey, you know what? I think it's great. I think it's a great idea." Like she's encouraging him. Their relationship is really mature. Also, she's mature. She's not like a teenager, and like this is like a very like healthy and fostered relationship.
Yeah,
and that's something that we don't get to see. But if we do get to see it in the modern day. They try to write some comedy in it and bring immaturity into it by saying, "Oh, like put somebody else down and be like, oh yeah, that worked. You know, wow, great job, man."
Yeah.
But which they totally could have written it that way. But instead they brought sincerity into the writing instead.
Yeah.
Which is really, really just, it's something you don't see today.
Yeah.
Like I love that aspect of this whole thing, and it shows the strength of their relationship too.
Yeah, and it shows just kind of how close they are. So like before you even leave to the Mama Ghost garage, she gets this mysterious letter from this guy, and Peyj is like, I don't know, that sounds a little suspicious. And the AI is like, well, we need money. And she's like, oh, don't worry, Peyj. She's like, we'll be fine. And then she looks at him, she goes, if you want, I can go alone. And he's like, oh. He goes, fine. Then he goes, then like he's walking away from her, but he's like pointing at her. He goes, I'm sticking to you like peas on honey. And and she's just like watching him, and like her face is just like she's trying to hold back a smile. Like I think they got the facial expressions down,
especially on Jade. She does a great job.
Sometimes she just has no emotion, but for the most part, like when she's with Peyj, there's like always like she's smiling and stuff. And then like as Peyj is walking away, he's like, this whole place is gonna fall apart and cover me. And like she puts her hand on her hip and she like smiles when she's looking at him. But as soon as you get done with the defeating the creature, it falls down, and I was just like, this is what like hit me really hard when I first played through the HD version. Is Peyj, he's like, hey, not bad for a little girl and an old ham, and she turns around and she gives him a hug. Yeah. And she's like rubbing on his head, and she's like, not bad, you old fart. And I was like, oh. Yep. My heartstrings, because like that's what our mom called
our grandpa,
and then her father-in-law. She called him an old fart.
Yeah,
and he got after her if she didn't say that.
You old fart, you know. And
he's like, you didn't. Yeah, and I was like,
that's terminology we really connect with. So
yeah,
it's cute.
And
also, David Gassman. I never really seen anything. I probably have heard him in something, but I never really paid attention to his performance. He's really good as Peyj.
Yeah,
100%, 110%. I wonder if he's in the trailer for that second one we were watching.
It didn't sound like
Doesn't sound like him, no.
It didn't sound like him.
But his performance in this game, it's so good. 10 out of 10, especially when they're dragging him away and stuff later on.
Yeah. But then you find out after that little fight is that the limo is not actually a limo. The top opens up and it's actually a really tiny taxi cab.
Oh, yeah.
I laughed so hard. I forgot to also mention there's a line when you open a door and Peyj is on the other side and he goes, Candygram.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like, I went back and looked at the live stream because I'd saved it. And I was like laughing every time Peyj said something. Like, I don't know. I had so much fun, like, just like going through that. But like you find out that the guy doesn't actually work for someone. He's part of a group called the Iris, and they want Jade to join because this was her test to get into the Iris, and somehow they shove Peyj into that tiny little car.
Oh,
I love how they don't show it. He just says hop in, and then it goes to a cutscene.
Yep. He just hopped
And
in.
the car is driving around, and she's like, "Oh, aren't you guys like the Iris Network? Aren't they like, aren't they like terrorists and stuff like that?" And he's like, "Well," he goes, "That's the thing." He goes like, "It's the alpha sections who haven't been telling the truth." And she's like, "But the alpha sections, haven't they been helping us?" And he's like, "What does he say? They take 10 people for every one that they save." And I was watching other people do analysis about that, and some of them were kind of surprised that Jade was like this naive, but like, if that's all she knew, like, it's kind of hinted that Peyj always thought that, but she probably thought, that's just Peyj. She always thinks about things. And so eventually they get her to join the Iris Network. And I love the little dialogue where he's like, "Oh, go to this bar and ask for peepers." And like, she doesn't say anything. And he's like, "I mean, it's your choice." And she goes, "Did you say peepers?" Like, you can hear that the voice actress, what's her name, Jodie Forrest, just kind of like trying not to laugh. Like, I think she did a really good job as Jade, Jodie Forrest.
Yeah, she's definitely a standout too. Also, the dude who plays Kronk, or Carlson Peterson, or whatever his name is, Double H. He's also pretty good. And also some of the folks in the secret society or whatever, the propaganda people who are trying to save society. The Iris, thank you. The Iris folks are also pretty dang good. So
yeah.
And
so eventually Jade goes to the bar, and we hear some sweet music, and then
well, okay, well, you're jumping ahead, girl. We do need to get through this, but you didn't even mention the Rastafarian rhinos.
We briefly mentioned them.
We need to talk about these guys. Why do we love them? I want to say this. Their music, peak. It rocks. I was listening to it on repeat today. I'm like, what's the one track I want to go back and listen to first when I think of this soundtrack? And it's the Mama Go Garage.
That has been burned into my brain, that
Mama
music.
Go Garage.
So what's funny is that I forgot when I started playing the game was that I had so much anxiety watching Allie and Chelsea play it as a kid, because I thought every time they left the garage, the Doms would attack. And it's only when you get an upgrade. That's only when they attack. And if there's 2 tracks from this game before I started replaying it that are forever burned, like that are forever trapped in my brain, it's the Mama Goes theme, and then the sneaking around music when you actually start doing the stealth missions and stuff, because that music is like, you don't want to get caught. Like,
yeah, and all of the tracks are really well done too in that sense. Like, they each fit each scenario pretty perfectly. But dude, the Mama Go Garage, these Rastafarian rhinos. Now, when you look at this game from a 2025 perspective, you might think, this might be a little culturally insensitive. But let me tell you, that's not Mikael Ansel's a point, He's trying to bring cultural diversity to this game. And let me tell you, he did a good job. And it's all enjoyable. And it has a sense of humor. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah, I love how they're just
yelling. You got
at
Rastafarian rhinos. You got sharks that are...
Sharkman.
You got Sharkman. You got some goat boy. You got some
goat people.
You got goat people. You got hippo ladies. It's
the hippo person doesn't actually show up in the game.
You got Ming Su, who's what is Ming Su?
A Chinese walrus.
Chinese walrus.
I don't know.
That's not a hippo. It's a Chinese walrus. So
yeah,
is there a Chinese walrus?
He's the guy you go to in the shop. Yeah,
but let's connect. Let's go a little faster here. When you go to the factory, is that right?
Yeah. So the Iris tell you, hey, we need this job done. All of our agents who are gone in have not come out, and we're trying to get pictures of what the alpha sections are doing in this old factory. And one thing that they mention is that they say, oh, this guy who we call Double H, he went into the factory. He hasn't been seen for 3 or 4 days. And like, they all kind of like look away, and they're all like, he was one of our best agents, like, but he was also a really good friend. And one thing they do mention that I think it's over, like, doesn't get, it's a little bit of an oversight, is that they state here at this little like cutscene is that the alpha sections are not the official government of this planet. They came in and took over the government when the attacks started happening, and
For the protection, probably.
Yeah, for their protection, and the governor just had no control over or no say in it. And like it's even referenced that her where she is being constantly watched by the Alpha sections, but she wants to help the Iris network, and so she needs proof. And so that's one reason you take up this mission. You go in there, you sneak into the factory. You have to do some mini levels to get, you got to get the upgrades. So you got to get pearls. You got to get just normal video game things to progress to the next level. And then you get to the factory. And Jake, you want to talk a little bit about the factory?
Long story short, it's a good mission. It's kind of probably the most frustrating one out of all of them. But also, long story short, Peyj gets kidnapped. And then we lose him for like the rest of the game, which is kind of a bummer. But we also gain Mr. Double H in the process, as well as a very fun boss fight with Peyj and Jade. And then an ending boss fight with
Double
H and Jade. And this was where I stopped playing. And it was like, I think I played for 2.5 hours. I stopped. And then I played the rest this last week. And you can honestly beat this game in like 6.5 hours if you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, people speedrun this in like 3, I think. But if you know what you're doing, you get it done in like 6.5 to 7. I took, I think, 8 to 9 hours.
Okay, wait. Whoa. You're skipping over the cutscene where Peyj gets captured, and that's just like kind of jarring. And like
it is.
So like you hear, like you're sneaking around, that all of a sudden you hear Peyj getting captured, and Jade's like, "Oh no!" And she starts running down the air vent she snuck down, and suddenly everything goes in slow motion, and you see the guards beating the heck out of Peyj, and Jade's trying to get to him, but by the time she gets down there, they're dragging him, and then they close the doors, and she stops, and she like puts her head on the door, and then she like steps back, and you have to go and find Peyj and stuff. And by the time you do the final cutscene with Double H, because you find Double H before Peyj goes missing, and he's getting tortured, and he's not really in his right mind.
Yeah. In fact, you take a picture of him as proof in the mission that, hey, they're messing up people over here. Like, they're evil.
Like, he's getting tortured by a Dom's thing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And
in an Alpha section facility or something like that.
And like you really see like Jade, and she's like concerned, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And like he's like, "Oh," and he's like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "Oh," she's like, "I'm Jade." And she goes, "Wait, do you work for the Iris?" And he's like, he goes, "Okay, Iris." He goes, "Miss Iris." And she's like, "My name is Jade." And he goes, "Okay, Miss Jade Iris." He goes, "I am here to help." And then he falls off a cliff. And like he's holding on to something. He goes, "Don't worry about me. I'll be fine." And he falls down, and I'm like, "Is he alive?" And then you get an email later, and they're like, "Jade, he's alive."
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and then he comes in later on and helps you fight the boss fight at the end of the level. So.
Yeah.
I think now's a good time to get into your rant you talked about.
Oh.
I think now's the time before we go through the latter half of the game.
You want me to go through that?
Yeah, I think it's time. Lexi, I have no idea what to expect. I just know that this was, Lexi told me before the podcast, "Hey, can you look over this?" And I started reading 2 words, and I said, "No, I'm not going to read it because I trust you, and I know you're going to make good content." I'm joking. So I rejected reading it because I'm like, hey, you know what, Lex? Just say what you want. Say your piece, and of what this person who looks very much like Kronk, you know. So yeah,
Okay.
Lexi, Mr. Double H,
All right.
also known as Kronk, also known as Carlson Peters. I'm gonna give it to you, and I'm just gonna remain silent for this whole thing, and I can't wait for it to proceed, so I'm going to shut up and carry on, my wayward daughter, or whatever.
Sister,
my wayward sister.
Okay.
Carry on, my wayward sister.
Okay, hopefully I can do this without falling apart.
No, is this like an emotional like love letter to Kronk? Or?
No.
Okay, a rant.
All right.
All right, here we go.
All right. Folks, in 2024, as I was playing Beyond Good and Evil, I was reintroduced to the character Double H, or as his real name is, Hub. The man is tall, large, dedicated to his cause, and has a very big chin. I thought he looked very similar to the character Kronk from the movie Emperor's New Groove. Both have many similarities, including big chins. After that, when I was replaying the game, or playing it with my friend, we lovingly referred to H as Kronk. But as I thought about the game, I kept thinking about the 2 characters and how similar they were. Specifically, how they both had their big jowls. Now, characters with big chins are nothing new. Since the dawn of comics, men have naturally been penned with large face appendages. Think Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, every male member of the X-Men team. Since I began noticing how in the 2000s alone, there were so many characters with big chins. Cyberchase said an evil pointy chin dude played by Mr. Great Scott himself. Samurai Jack, an assistant cousin from the Powerpuff Girls, lived on Cartoon Network. Flapjack and Chowder were swarmed with men in need of chinderwear on Nickelodeon. Even in Kim Possible, Mr. Barkin, as well as most of the villains, had some variation of this. In fact, while we're on the topic, can we talk about how nearly every animated character Patrick Warburton has played has included some sort of extended chin? Does that mean he's typecast? Suddenly, it wasn't just the 2000s anymore. This started before Y2K. Characters from SpongeBob were appearing on the radar. Cyber 6's evil, chin-wielding Frankensteins were being spotted. The Tick and almost everyone in it made me want to shout, "Little wooden boy!" The rabbit hole is getting deeper and deeper, folks. Animes left and right throughout the years contained the BCM. Did you know that one out of every... No. Did you know that 1 out of every 5 shonen anime as a man that oh no.
As a man, what, Lexi?
Sorry.
A big protruding what, Lexi?
As a man that could crush a walnut between his chin and Adam's apple. When you thought this was just the 90s and 2000s, you'd be wrong. 2010 Unleashed Gravity Falls, Wonder Over Yonder, Adventure Time, every Illumination movie, regular show, My Little Pony, Transformers Prime, which has unshockingly stated since the 1980s that yes, each robot character has a defined chin. Oh my gosh.
Chins in disguise. No, they're not.
Going back to video games, this has been unceasingly common, apparently.
Unceasingly?
I'm gonna wait till you finish taking a drink. Okay. Apparently, creators think that putting a man in the bag going, "I have a big chin, I have a big chin," is funny and not harmful. What about the men of Overwatch, Helldivers, not Wario from Pizza Tower, Wario and Waluigi from the Italian Plumber and Red series? This dude, that guy, what's his face in?
Not to mention the live action iterations of sitcoms.
Yeah.
Tim Allen's great notoriety. His chin's great notoriety.
And let's not forget Master Chief. I don't know why he's actually on this list. You really can't.
You can't see his face.
I can't tell.
But he can crush a walnut between his chin and his
helmet. But I've tagged him with a red thread on this imaginary board of suspects, which leads me to one question: why? Why would people choose this character portrayal over others? Is there some sort of joke that the creators of popular media put into that we don't know about? Why would creators of children's entertainment resort to designing the males of the human race with jaws the circumference of bowling pins? Is this a stereotype that we as a society are unaware of? Double H, what have you done to me? That is all. So
well, I think the answer to your question is because they want strong masculine archetypes, and having a big chin delivers that look to you.
Also, this is not to offend anyone with a big chin.
It is to offend everybody with a big chin. Yes, I have a big chin, and it's covered with a beard. But I could crush a walnut between my non-existent abs and my chin.
It was Adam's apple and...
Okay, then no.
I'm sorry. I couldn't say that.
You said chin and abs. I was like, I could do that. It's easy.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of Double H, yeah, he almost dies at the end of the factory mission.
Yeah. He's a very bumbling fool who is also poisoned.
And then he's like, I'm dying, Miss Jade.
Get me to the Iris
Get me to the
Network.
Iris
and
Network.
you literally have 4.5 minutes to get from the factory into town, and he can get caught on walls. I found this out.
Oh, he could caught on walls? That didn't happen to me.
I turned
The
around.
20th anniversary fixed it, I think.
I turned around when I was playing the HD version because I'm like, where'd he go? And I turned around and he's just clipping on a wall.
We have 1:29, come on! And so, anyway, they get to the Iris, a cutscene plays, he falls and collapses, and it's going to take 3 weeks until he gets better, and then...
When they take off his helmet.
And they take off his helmet, yeah. It's going to take 3 weeks. And he has this protruding alien growth on his chin.
His neck.
His neck, which is also part of his chin, because his chin is so big.
And then
they inject something into it, and then it goes away.
But
and
Jade
then they're like,
sees
3 weeks, he'll be back on top.
But Jade sees, when she looks at it, suddenly she has a vision. And in the beginning, she had a vision, too, of something, but you don't really know what it is. And suddenly, she has a vision, and the voice tells her, it says, I have one of your companions. It's like, give yourself up, and I will spare his life. And suddenly, Jade goes back into reality, and they're all like, hang in there, hub. And he survives. But it's just something really strange. And they're all like, Jade, you did a great job. And she's like, thank you. And she's kind of just jarred.
Yeah, because she just lost her family member. And
Yeah.
she doesn't know if he's dead or what. So.
Yeah, and she does right before the boss fight with Double H. She sees Peyj, and before she goes to try and crawl up something to get to him, and then there's a Doms there, and when she sees the Doms, she also sees this strange thing we don't know anything about. Sorry.
Well, while you mention that, I want to go back to kind of like the design of things, because the factory, you really get to see what this game has got in it, basically in terms of art direction and design. Like I said, it's very Invasion of the Body Snatchers in terms of plot. But let me tell you, you can definitely tell in terms of the design that there's definitely stuff like the stuff from the System Shock franchise in here, System Shock 1 and 2, I should say, and also from Atmosphere as well. It also seems like a more family-friendly version of those kind of things, especially Half-Life. I would say this is very much Half-Life coded in the sense of like the alien design, you're being how they are involved in society, which is we see in Half-Life 2 what that is. And also this came out before that, which is really fascinating because these two games, Half-Life 2 and Beyond Good and Evil, were made in tandem with each other, like in terms of the same years being developed. Like it's really fascinating to see like stories being focused in the early 2000s in video games specifically about aliens, them homogenizing themselves into society. I think that's the right word to use. Probably not, but to see them combine them, how they work in a society that's had them as part of that for years, kind of like District 9 in a way. Like, what does this look like if aliens come to Earth and they inhabit us or inhabit part of our society? This is like 1,000 or so years in the future with Beyond Good and Evil, but it's cool to see that kind of aspect and to see like their design, because yes, this is like kind of scary and pretty menacing sometimes, but the art direction makes it seem more kid friendly, and it is, and it kind of tones it down, we'll say. So
yeah,
that's how I would put it.
Also, there were some, like, I did look this up because when we were talking about this before we even started the idea of planning for the podcast, you said, "Oh, this is definitely Ghibli inspired, like some elements of this."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, nah." And then I did research, and I guess like Grave of the Fireflies was one of the influences they had. Some people even think Porco Rosso, Peyj.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, it's funny you mentioned that.
And then Blade
because...
Runner was also, they said, a big inspiration on this, mixing
really?
the old, like old
sense.
with the new, with the futuristic, the gritty with the new technology.
That's one reason why I like the CDs so much. Like the combination of like older tech, but they're using it to their advantage. In fact, when they radio Peyj later in the game, or he radios them, we'll say, there's a whole thing of them like, radio? We haven't heard from this in 3 weeks since we lost contact with the boss. And then they say, wait, radio? And he's like, yeah, we use it for a security measure, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's really neat.
What's funny is that this game has a lot of optional dialogue that you will probably miss on your first playthrough of the game. When I went through my second playthrough, like even when you first like wake up and you're taking pictures of things, like if you talk with some of the kids, like, or if you just go up to Jade's room, 2 of the kids are in there, and one of the kids is like, those monsters are what took my mom, right? Or my dad. And she's like, just be brave, we'll be fine. And then like later when you talk to the same girl, you find out that one of the kids that came to the lighthouse didn't even have like her name, like they didn't even know her name when they brought her.
Oh, wow.
And so like that can go completely unmissed, but like Jade will ask her, she said, do you want to tell us your name now? And the girl's like, oh, my name is Zaza. And she said, this is your home too. And then like she tells her, she goes, anything in the fridge is yours and stuff. She goes, she's like, we share stuff here.
It's so cool that it makes me really wonder what their plans were for Beyond Good and Evil 2 in terms of the prequel, because
or the original version of the game before.
Well, also, yeah, exactly, because the element of fatherhood that Peyj has given to these kids and to Jade is really profound, and like he takes in all these kids, and it's really interesting to see that, and it makes you think of what they were gonna do later on, because not only of what happens to Peyj in the game, but also what was it like before because of his family or whatever, you know?
Yeah, they never say anything about where Peyj came from in terms of like he mentions that he had a great aunt in Geneva in like two lines of
who knows if that's real.
Yeah, but like
it's lore though.
Like, so what's funny is that most of the stuff I'm looking up in the game is that it's Jade who brought the kids into the lighthouse and like adopted them, but I have a feeling like she seems like the person that would like ask Peyj, like, do you think it would be okay if we brought them here?
Yeah, their relationship seems to be that mature enough level. Like, where it's a joint decision on their both.
Yeah,
both
and like
parts.
what's funny is that like I was looking up stuff, and when it said Jade brought in, I immediately thought of this one neighbor I went to go see, and there was this like his granddaughter had brought a kid with her, and he was just following the grandpa around, and the grandpa was kind of like Peyj, where he didn't smile, and like he was always he was always on a tractor, and he's like, all right, come on, Joe, let's go do something, and he would just follow him, and I'm like, I feel like that would be like if the game wanted to show us that would be just Peyj with some of the kids. It's just like one of them, like a few of them would be following him around.
Some people on the Reddits and the TikToks out there say, I wish Peyj was my daddy.
I don't know if that's ever been said. Also, there's not a lot of presence of Beyond Good and Evil on TikTok. I've only made 2 videos of it. And it was just me trying to explain the plot of the game.
Expose them to them Gen Zs, Lexi.
I did. So when I did live stream on TikTok, someone came into the chat and said, a few people came in and said, what's this game? And one of them was my friend. And I was
this game's prime Gen Z material, too.
Well, like a lot of people were all like the one person who stayed throughout the whole thing was like, I don't know what this game is. And so I'm explaining to the game, like, and they stayed through the whole like 2.5 hours I live streamed. They were super nice. And they were just asking me questions, but someone came in that I didn't recognize, and they said, what's this game? And I said, oh, this is Beyond Good and Evil. And I said the year and stuff like that. And they commented again and said, I watched someone play this when I was younger, and then for years I didn't know what this game was. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I helped someone unlock a core memory. And I was like, I even said in the live stream, I'm like, if you're still here, I'm so glad that you remembered this game.
That's cool. Really quickly, back on that like art style thing. Mm-hmm. The I kind of describe it as like a pseudo dark fantasy. There's a whimsicalness to it all that really brings it down to earth, not only for like family friendliness, but also as a really unique take. Like, yeah, Blade Runner, but it's like kind of like with a kind of like a family friendly theme thrown in.
Well, also
it's also it being about family too.
Yeah, and like. So, like, after, like, you save Double H, they said, oh, yeah, he's going to take a few weeks to recover. Then as soon as you leave the den, suddenly he just shows up and he's like, I'm back,
Miss Jade.
He's like,
reporting for duty.
Yeah, and she's like, aren't you supposed to be, like, resting? And he goes, what is he says something along the lines of, like, you saved my life, I'm going to help you and stuff. But
DBUTT. Don't break up the team.
Yeah. And like he's always quoting the guidebook of the Hillyan army and stuff. But one thing that someone on Reddit noted, I don't have the post on me, but someone pointed out that like we obviously see Double H have these side effects of what happens when the DOMs take people and stuff. And he was in that torture device for like 3 days or something like that. And if you go back to the lighthouse, one of the kids, like, if you keep talking to him, he'll be like, oh, Jade, the dog took your camera. And she's like, my camera? And he's like, if you do that before Peyj gets taken, and then if you go after Peyj gets taken, he goes, "Hey Jade, you won't believe this, but the dog has your camera again." And someone pointed out, they said, "I think he's suffering side effects of memory loss."
The dog?
The kid. Because the kid keeps saying,
the kid.
He keeps saying the same thing. And at one point,
come on, shut up. This game's from 2003. There's no way. You can say that about every NPC then.
no, but if you
No way.
you look at the dialogue in the order, if you
This
do
kid
it,
has memory loss. He's an NPC from
no,
2003.
but none of the other kids are showing this kind of like behavior after the Dom's attack in the beginning. And so
No, I think that's... No,
Well,
I
like,
think
'cause
people are looking way too into it.
no, because when at this part, because I was confused about this interaction, and he goes, "Jade, you wouldn't believe this, but the dog," and she gets really quiet, and he goes, "Why are you looking at me like that?" and she says,
really?
"Don't worry, Pablo, I'll take care of it."
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh my
whoa.
gosh!"
Dang, this kid's gone through trauma, man.
And like every time you see him, he's always sitting by the radio, and they're always playing the propaganda stuff, and so
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
and
That's
so
really interesting.
yeah, someone on Reddit pointed that out. I can't remember who it is, but thank you for pointing that out because that
Yeah.
does make a lot of sense when going back and playing the game.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so like that, it's like the more you progress in the game, also the more Double H gets his memory back, and like he won't just refer to her as Miss Jade. Like he does end up calling her Jade in a few moments in the game and stuff. And so, are we gonna go on to the slaughterhouse now?
Yeah, let's just go through that real quick, and then the lighthouse and what happens with that.
Yeah, yeah. We want to keep this under how many hours?
I mean, we can go as long as we want. It doesn't really matter, but just keep going. Like
Yeah.
we'll end it. I do want to really like deep dive, have a really nice discussion about the potential sequel and film stuff. But let's just go through what you got.
Yeah, and so.
And thanks for the rant, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
That big chins, man. Can't go wrong with
I've
the
been
big
working on
chins.
that since September of
my
2024.
Well, it was very good, and it's on the record now.
I apologize if I
No,
laughed
don't
too
apologize for the big chin people.
No,
they
I
already
mean
know
the
they got big
crying
chins.
in between. I couldn't say the Adam's apple.
That's so funny.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
Master Chief. You don't even see his helmet. John Halo.
Shot Halo.
All right.
Anyway, so
The slaughterhouse.
The next mission is the slaughterhouse, and
Oh. Actually, we're already spoilers, but people know if you played the game, you know what to expect. But there's a lot of stealth gameplay,
yeah,
and the mechanics are really cool. That's all I
Mhm.
gotta say. Keep going.
yeah, and so
Well, they're cool for 2003.
yeah, this was pre-Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
so
Well, also it was post Splinter Cell, but which is more realistic.
I
But they
never
do a
played
good
that
job,
game.
especially like when I was a kid and we were playing this game. God, I was horrified. I was so scared when I got caught. I'm like, ah!
Also, if you get caught in some of these missions, sometimes you can get away with knocking the guards out and okay, it won't alert anything. But then there are some places where if you do get caught, there's a cannon, and
Yeah,
it
and
will
then
shoot you.
instantly kill you.
Yeah.
If you get caught, you're like, boom. Oh. By the way, in the ending, like the big infiltration base or whatever that I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so I jumped onto a ledge,
Mhm.
and the guy saw me, and he's like, "Oh, rubber." And I was like, "Oh shoot!" And then like I was caught. They noticed me so much that then they brought in the thing that says allocate or accolade or whatever
Oh.
with the robot, and it's like, and it's scanning the area, and then it like shoots things like a
Yeah,
bunch of
you will die
missiles.
instantly.
But I was on the edge, and it didn't get me on the edge. And I'm like, sweet. And as it was done, it was over. I'm like, yeah. And I pull myself up, but the guard was still alert for some reason. Like it didn't fully end the it didn't fully end that like part where they're going back to normal patrol. And so because of that, I lift myself up. And then
turned around. Yeah.
like as I pull myself up, the gun thing sees me and just instantly kills me. I'm like, you gotta be flipping kidding me, man. Come on. That was cheap. But speaking
Yeah.
of cheap, let's go to the slaughterhouse.
Oh my gosh. So one of the mechanics that you can play in this game to get money and to get the pearls you need to get more car parts is doing races. And there are 2 races in town, but then there are 2 at this place called the Slaughterhouse, which is a hop, skip, and a jump over a barrier to
Literally.
south of the lighthouse. And you have to, in these races, there's actually a gateway to get into the old Slaughterhouse, and that's where you have to do the next mission after the Black Isle.
Real quickly, the music for the race, bro, that slaps hard.
I like this.
I'm gonna keep back up and say, but I don't know what I'm saying.
Oh no!
But it sounds really cool when I say it really fast and I say it to the tune of the song. Anyway, let's continue on into the Slaughterhouse mission, which is pretty all right. I like it.
Sorry. I am so sorry.
I'm a kid. I got here, buddy.
Okay, so I don't like the first track where the guy's just screaming into the microphone.
What? You better hurry, rookie. Like, I love that. I'm like, yo.
He's just going around.
I don't mind it.
That was so loud. I hated that. I like the San Juan something. It's
San Juan.
Yeah, whatever Jake was trying to manifest over there.
Yeah, speaking of tongues over there, that fellow.
But anyway, so you get into the slaughterhouse. There's like a really cool like little scene where like the alpha sections are trying to stop you. And you're just like jumping and doing stuff. And I failed that part a few times. Also, I hate the slaughterhouse. I hate that level with a burning passion. Just because I got stuck. I did the hardest part first. And then I didn't know where the other part was. And I didn't know that there was a ramp you had to drive up on the last part of the level.
I can't believe you didn't see that. I was like,
didn't.
The camera literally pans back and shows you.
So I don't.
No, wait. In the HD, does it do that?
So it doesn't. It just shows you the area. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'm driving this way. I didn't even think about that.
So in the 20th anniversary, I didn't go that way first, but I went the normal way, like to the left.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back. And then as I go back to turn, it triggers the camera, and then it pans out, and I can see, oh, hey, this big area and this place in the middle. Looks like I need to go up there. Also, if you're just messing around with jumping all the time, which is super fun to do in the hovercraft, like you kind of figure out you can kind of go up walls a little bit, like just slanted like slopes and stuff.
A few nights ago, Jake sent me a video, and I was like, what the heck is this? I was doing something else. I think I was playing Pokemon, and I just...
I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, what do they want me to do?
He's jumping on the ramp. He's trying to get through the door, this 2-inch door.
And this 2-inch door, he's like, well, Miss Jade, I guess we'll have to... We don't know what's fully ahead there, but I guess we'll have to go through anyway.
And Jake's just going...
I drive up that hill and with the hovercraft, and I'm like, doing, just jumping at the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the heck do I do? And so then I figure it out. Yeah. Also, I had to look up a long play to make sure I figure out where to go in this game, because there's a few areas, if you don't know where to go, you're just going to get lost and kind of hopelessly lost.
Can we give a shout out to Allie and Chelsea, who beat the game without internet?
Yep, no internet, no guides, no nothing. They just figured it out.
No cheat books.
Yeah. Well, there's it's cool because that's one thing I do like about this game is if you're paying attention and you read all your emails and you look at the items and you figure out what's on the items, you can figure out all the really cool little secrets in this game, but especially toward the end, there's a certain order after you do things. And once you get that order, then you're kind of on the right track. But if you pay attention and you really don't passively play this game, you're going to figure out basically everything if you put in the work. But for me, I didn't want to do it. Also, we had to do the podcast. So I'm like, I got to get this game done. And it was cool because I'm like, I don't usually play games with a long play. I usually figure it out on my own. Yeah. But it was kind of nice having a long play. I think I might do that for more games going forward. So
yeah,
which is a normal thing. A lot of people do that.
Yeah, and there's no shame in it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any shame in it.
We all need a little help every now and then.
Yeah,
when we're playing
a little help from my friends, you know? Yeah. Anyway.
But anyway, so
Slaughterhouse.
You go to the slaughterhouse.
I could see why you don't like this level. Replaying it, I think, would be a pain, especially on speedrunning stuff or replays.
This was really hard. Even when I was helping Lorna play the game, we were so lost. We're like, okay, you have one more picture to take, and we had to go back through the entire level because I couldn't figure it out.
What do you mean one more picture to take on Slaughterhouse?
So you take 3 pictures, I think?
Yeah.
So we
for the conspiracy stuff.
Yeah, we couldn't find it. And I was like, where is it?
It's only in the one area.
So, no, there's that one interest you go through, and then there's the end with the bombs.
Yeah, once with the barcode, once you go past that barcode, it's good from there. Mm-hmm. But you were playing the HD or the remaster?
We were playing the HD version.
Oh, okay.
Because
that might be different.
The one downside about the 20th anniversary edition is that it only has one save per profile. And the HD version and the original version have multiple save files, which I liked because if I wanted to go back and try and get all the pearls, for example, I could just do that. But in the 20th anniversary edition, you got to start the game over entirely. You can't have a backup save. that kind of thing. So that was the little bummer about it. So
You can't have a backup save?
So like you know how like older games had like multiple save files?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 20th anniversary edition didn't do that.
So if you do the online save, you can.
Oh.
So if you go to online save
didn't do
and say
that.
like save or upload your save, you can save the current save as your backup,
Okay.
which is super sweet. Like with the Steam Deck, it worked great. But say you can abuse that all you want and save scum, and like kind of like you're syncing trophies with your PSN profile. Like people who don't want to sync trophies, they don't sync them and they sync them later on or something like that, especially with PS4, PS5, and PS3 titles. So it's like there's a way to do it, but it sucks because they make you do it through the online thing instead of just having it on your system, which is like multiple save files.
Yeah.
Dude, even games like Last of Us Part 2 has a function like that, and that was 2020.
Huh.
So like,
I didn't know that.
what's going on, guys at Ubisoft?
Yeah.
Just do us a favor.
Yeah. And in Beyond Good and Evil, there are a lot of like side things that you can do that you don't
That
have
you
to
kind of want to save and
Yeah.
do them, you know?
Yeah, I'm a little mad because the reason I didn't beat the 20th anniversary on Xbox was because I was like, I want to get all the pearls. I think I have them all. And then I realized I didn't get one. And so I'm
Aw.
going to have to start over that. And I was a little sad. And that was why I was playing the Switch version.
You
And
can't
then I'm
just
like,
go back and get everything?
so there's one DOMS attack, and I didn't attack the DOMS. The second time the DOMS attack after you leave Mama Ghost, they're all everywhere. It is impossible to aim. It's very hard to aim when the DOMs are attacking, and you get a pearl there. I did not get that because I was like, why am I here? I want to go. And then like the attack.
So you didn't kill the centipede thing in the air?
So there isn't a centipede thing in the air in the second attack.
Really?
There isn't. And so I could be doing something wrong. I don't know.
People in the subreddit, let us know in the comments down below.
Yeah.
Or those who are fans of or just listening. Just let us know.
Yeah. And so another thing
Help
is
Lexi out. Help a sister out, you know? Help a sister BG fan out.
help
you
a
know?
Jade cosplayer out, won't you?
Yeah. Yeah, Lexi cosplayed Jade, by the way, last Halloween, and she did really good.
Yeah.
We'll probably put it somewhere on a thumbnail.
Yeah. I had such a fun time with that. I think I'm
And
gonna,
it looked great. You look just like her.
yeah. And I
So,
usually
yeah.
don't wear wigs when I dress up because I have a lot
Do
of
you
natural
wear
hair.
wigs? Do you wear wigs?
Oh my gosh. But so I actually decided to wear a wig, and I had my sister help me. She ended up not having to work that on Halloween, and so she helped me get my costume ready. And so I actually did look like Jade. When I show some of the kids at church my costume,
They're like, well, that's not from the internet. That's you?
no, one of the little boys, he's only like 4 or 5. He's like, you look so different with short hair. He's like, your hair is so different. He also saw my picture of Peyj in my sketchbook, and he goes, is that a grumpy piggy? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, can you draw me the grumpy piggy? And so I ended up drawing it for him, and his mom walks in, and he goes, Mom, look. And he holds the picture up. It's a grumpy piggy, but he's actually a really good guy. And I was like, oh, I'm like, I worry if these parents who they come back and like their kids are telling them all about Beyond Good and Evil, No Straight Roads, Pirates, and all my current obsessions. And I'm like, are they going to question my ability to teach and watch over these kids?
Well, you know, to teach, you got to be just a little bit crazy. So we don't mind that around here.
Oh, thank you.
Well, to summarize the slaughterhouse, what happens in the end? You
Nothing
take more
really
pictures.
climactic happens.
You take pictures that they're sending humans or the kids. They're sending
they're sending people.
The people to some place, and they're doing human trafficking of some kind for body parts or who knows.
And Jade even mentions, she's like, oh my gosh, she goes, I hope Peyj didn't have to go through all that pain.
Yeah.
And Double H, this is where he mentions, he goes, well, they need them alive. And so,
Yeah,
when
you find Double H, he's getting tortured or something.
but he's
happened
still
to him.
alive.
He's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like something messed up's going on, and it's really interesting. And anyway, Slaughterhouse is done. You go do some things, go back to Iris, you go and then get something from Mama Gogo, or not Mama Gogo.
The Mama
Coco?
goes.
No,
Mama goes.
By the eye of Mama Gogo. You You exit there, and then boom, something happens.
Oh,
What has
so
happened,
wait a
Lexi?
minute. I need to pause and mention something. Is that after Peyj gets taken, you have a disc from him, and it's just says for Jade.
Yeah.
And he says, like, well, he said, I think he goes, you got a lot of you have a lot of good stuff from your parents. And he goes, they were really close friends of mine. And he goes, I think about him a lot. And then he said they're very vague about this, but he
Yeah.
says that something happened with the authorities and her parents wanted her to be safe. And so Peyj brought her to Hillys like 20 years before the game's events. And at that point, the Doms hadn't really attacked. I don't even know if there was any mention of Doms during that time. But he said the conflict spread, so maybe the Doms were just like starting to attack the galaxy. We don't really know. But he mentions that the reason they got to Hillys was because of a ship he worked on with her dad, and it's called the Beluga. And he shows some pictures of it, but you really don't know how to get to it. And you can actually do this before or after the next events. But just keep that in mind as we go on to the next thing, which is the bank exploded. Actually, the lighthouse exploded.
The bank exploded.
That's a meme. The girls,
okay.
It's like,
Gotcha.
okay, we're not going to break into, and she skips ahead accidentally in the book. The bank explodes.
Oh, I forgot to mention this. Okay, so there was in Slaughterhouse.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part in the Slaughterhouse where I was fighting these like manta ray creatures. The like
Those things are stupid.
Yeah, I was like, they just keep coming out of the walls. What's going on? So I'm like going up against the wall and killing them with double H. And one got stuck on the crates and started like twirling like in the air, like on top of the crate. And it was like, ooh, and we couldn't kill it. And I did eventually was able to just hit it. But it was just funny. Like that's one thing about the remaster that I don't think it's worth mentioning. Like there are some little bugs like that, but compared to the HD remaster, HD version, there's a lot of fixes, a lot of stuff they did to really iron this out for the modern
consoles.
to make it playable, and for modern consoles. Like it looks great. It translates really well into excuse me this next gen.
I think even on the Switch version, because
it's great on Switch.
Obviously, the Switch is not going to be as superior. I mean, Snake Pass does take 10 minutes to load on my Switch.
Oh my gosh, it does. Yeah.
It's a little bad.
Yeah.
But this was it didn't take very long to load, and even though some of the textures are turned down, it still had that nice HD look to it.
Yeah, it still has that nice HD look. And there's some random clippings that happens, but honestly, they did a really good job, and I was really impressed with what they did. So anyway, that was the only big bug. It's not even a big bug. It's a bug that I came across. So
a literal bug.
Literal, yeah. It was twirling on top of crate. Oh.
Like helicopter.
Speaking of helicopters and bombings, let's talk about what bombed and what was bombed.
You're terrible at this transition.
I am pretty bad. I'm getting somewhat
so
better.
as soon as you get something, you buy the next thing at the Mama Go's garage. Suddenly,
by the eye of Mama Go's garage.
Suddenly you look out at the lighthouse, and part of the lighthouse is destroyed. There's smoke, and you see an Alpha Section ship going from.
Well, also you kind of get the notion that after the Slaughterhouse, Iris is somewhat found out, because there's the propaganda or the pictures that are getting sent out from you and Iris are spreading like wildfire in the community, and there's now protests in the city of Hillys. And they're just hey, some people are hey, this is not cool. Some people are walking around like normal. But at this point, there's enough attention on all the corruption and the dastardly deeds of the Doms and the aliens and all that, the Alpha Section and the Doms, that they are pretty mad, and they kind of figure out who's connected to it all.
Yeah, and no matter, and they keep putting out propaganda of just the Iris Network tried to
to break into the Slaughterhouse where your something pills are made.
Your food is
coming from, and it's just totally saying what the opposite is of whatever they release, which is really interesting.
And so when you leave the Mama Go's garage, I really think they did a good, Jodie Forrest did a really good job, going through with the emotions. And she's like, the kids! And so you have to go there, And when she gets there, like, you just see it and the music's really tense and she's going, no, no, no. And she's freaking out. She's like, they took the kids. And she starts naming all the kids. She's like, is anyone here? And she's like saying all the names. She's like, Fen, Yoa. And she's like running through it. And then when you get to the top of the lighthouse where her room is and where their room is, it's just nothing but ashes. It's all it's destroyed. That cutscene alone is just so emotional.
It's really good.
And like suddenly like the dog survived it, which my friend Lorna, when she came to that part, her jaw was on the ground like, oh my gosh, they took the kids. And she's like, who took my children? And then she goes, where's the dog? And I'm like, the dog? And she's like, yeah, where's the puppy? And I was like, Lorna, I was like, I don't know. And then like, she's like, oh, they better not have taken the dog. And then like, there's a part where like Jade is just sitting there and like, she is just like, it's just like, it's so emotional. And then suddenly the dog comes up and nudges her. And when that part came up, Lorna goes, thank you, Jesus, the dog is alive. And she goes, I don't care about the kids. And I'm like,
I don't care about the kids.
I'm like, Lorna,
screw them kids.
I'm like, what about the children? And she's like,
what about the mentally disabled goat kid, you know? Like,
oh my, Jake, that is not cool. Not cool, man. But
anyway.
She's like, well, it sucks to be the children. I'm like, they're orphans. She's like,
Sucks to
so
be
is
an
Jade. There can only be one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that kid's
she's great. I love that's one reason I wanted her to play the game is because she's just like,
well, she liked it too.
It's just so like there's so much emotion and there's so much stuff. But like that whole cutscene where like Jade's just sitting there and she's talking to the dog and she's like, well, Wolf, she's like, you thought you could make a difference. You thought you could do this. She goes, but you were wrong. And she's
talking about her. Yeah. Yeah.
And like through little interactions.
Which is really a good way of doing that.
Yeah. And like through little interactions, you see just like how she talks with the kids. Like one of the girls doesn't even speak English or like the basic language. She speaks in another language. And like they're trying to understand her. And like she'll say some words. Like at one point she will say the Iris network. She'll say the Iris and then she'll do something. And like there's one part where if you do talk to her before you go to the Iris and you go back and talk with her, Jade will go, Yoa, why didn't you tell me about the Iris? And then she goes, oh, Peyj and his shoes. And like that leads up to something. But like one of the kids she talks to, she's like, hey, how you doing? And he goes, excuse me, I am a knight. And she's like, sorry. She goes, Sir Fen, how are you faring today? And that's just like a little interaction. Like that's easily missed. But like it shows just like they're not just kids she's taking in. She has a relationship with each of these kids. And then like to see this cutscene where she's just like, oh my gosh, like the alpha sections took my uncle and then they took the kids that I like take care of and stuff. What's funny is that when I was playing this game, I was VBS at our local church, Vacation Bible School, and I was in charge of all like the first and second graders. And I was just like so sad because I just come to that part and I'm like one of the kids came up, they're like, hi, and I just gave him a hug. I'm like, I need a hug right now. And like all the kids, and like everyone in the youth group's like, Lexi, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm not okay, guys. I'm not okay. I'm like, I'm going through some emotional stuff. I actually showed Lorna that, and that's what piqued her interest about wanting to play Beyond Good and Evil, because I showed her some screenshots of like Jade with the dog. But like Double H even tries to encourage her. He's like, look, they're still alive out there. We know that the Doms want him. And she's like, it's over. She's like, we're done and stuff. And he tries to encourage her. And then like, there's just like a scene where he walks away and he's really sad. And then you hear Jade get up and she starts getting up and doing things. And so he follows her. And then you get attacked right after you leave it. To put more salt in the wound, Jade gets attacked by another Alpha Section robot or whatever. And Double H does nothing, but
yeah, he doesn't. He only does melee stuff. But
eventually, if you figure out where the spaceship that Peyj mentions is hiding, it plays one of my favorite clips. Lines from Jade is she opens it up, the secret cavern, and suddenly there's a giant ship hiding behind this wall, and she goes, 20 years. Peyj, you hid this from me for 20 years? And what I love is that they actually use that audio at the very end of the 20th anniversary trailer. Oh, because it said the 20th anniversary, and you hear her go, Peyj, you hid this from me for 20 years? And I was like, I thought that was so cute.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the new remaster, like something I really like about it is, well, no, I guess not just the game in general. Like all the cutscenes are in game. Like they're not like pre-rendered or anything. They're all just in engine. So like you'll see what you play in the game is what you'll get in the cutscenes. Like the cutscenes don't look any better or worse than the actual gameplay.
Well,
And which Ubisoft does a lot of. Like
But-
Prince of Persia has some pre-rendered cutscenes, but most of the cutscenes are in game.
Well, the Jade
And-
engine that they used to make this game, that was one of its perks, was that they didn't have to use an extra.
Yeah, they could do rigging.
It's not like
and
the
all that
Final
stuff.
Fantasy games where like the
Yeah.
animation is completely different from the gameplay.
Yeah, it's like, pointy triangles, and then it's like, whoa, these cutscenes are out of this world.
Beautiful
What's going on? Yeah.
animation.
Or like a World of Warcraft or whatever. But yeah, I like how they work really well here.
Mhm.
Like I really like that, and especially in the emotional part because I played that today. The whole scene with Jade and her kind of breaking down and stuff. I thought that was really cool, and they did a really good job with that. Yeah, that's all I really got to say. I think yeah, good emotion, man. The
Yeah.
people who are the French, they know how to make it emotional.
And like there's an optional thing where you can break into the main Alpha Section headquarters, and that was what we were talking about earlier. You can do that after the lighthouse gets destroyed
Yeah,
or
you can do-
before.
or before.
But the before kind of just makes more sense because
Oh, dude, it makes so much sense.
yeah. So on my
Yeah.
first playthrough, I did it afterwards, and I
Yeah.
was like, wait, I feel like I played this out of order.
And I did it before, and I'm like, can I do this before or after? And you're like, oh, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, okay.
I love how you just like you came to me first for any questions about the game when Jake was trying to go through the factory. He called me like I was working on stuff for church, and all of a sudden I see him calling, and I'm like, and I just pick it up and I'm like, okay, what part are you at?
And I was like, yeah, well, I'm at the factory. I don't know where to go.
And I'm like, did you do this?
There's this battery, and that was like the worst part of the factory. It's like
Okay, that was the worst part.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it was funny. Well, you're the expert. You're the expert of this game. So
I
I'm
can't
gonna
help
go to
it
the
if I
experts.
remember video games better than I do spelling.
yeah. So anyway, the lighthouse thing happens. We find out though that we got to go to the moon.
Yeah, so
That's
you go
the
back
whole
to the
reason after the slaughterhouse we found out we have to go to the moon.
yeah, and
And
you
then
go
the whole thing with the kids happens, and then what happens after that?
So like after you can do after you get out of the slaughterhouse, they push you to go to the iris first, but you can do random stuff, and it makes more sense to me at least.
There's also a bunch of things in Hillys, the city itself, where the pedestrian district, where you can open doors from the certain keys you've gotten at certain locations,
Mm-hmm.
and you can go into different alpha sections where it's the DOMs and they're like basically stealth sections, and you can get different rewards. You can get currency, you can get pearls. Most importantly,
The main mission where the head of the alpha section starts chasing you and you have to jump on the rooftop.
and that's the one we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay,
where
yeah.
You
I
get
wanna
that
talk about-
key,
one thing
and then
I-
you get into this big stealth moment.
and
It's
you're
really cool.
running and they're shooting at you and everything goes in slow motion. You hear Jade breathing, and then the
Yeah.
Double H guy is floating on one of the propaganda screens that flies around the city.
Yeah.
And you have to jump for him, and then she misses him and she starts falling, so he jumps down to the bottom.
Yeah, he
and
like
grabs
falls
her.
down and grabs the bottom of the propaganda thing and then grabs her. It's really cool shot.
That's one thing I love about this game is that it feels like a movie. Like there's so much cinematic
Yes.
section. Like you can tell like with the camera shots, even though the camera is janky sometimes,
Yeah.
there is a lot of thought put into how they structured cutscenes and how they structured certain parts of the game. Like they wanted you to see that part where like the camera's underneath Jade when she jumps or is overhead, and you see the cars going underneath her when she jumps over the roof.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's so cool. Like there's just
Yeah, that
so
was a
much.
huge standout moment for me in this whole game.
Mhm.
And you can tell they put quite a bit of money in that section.
Yeah.
A lot of time and effort to go into that last stealth section and then transition into a chase scene.
Yeah.
Which has happened before in the game if you look in the right places, but
Yeah.
really culminated really well here.
But
And then
then-
it just fits perfectly. That happens, they know who you are, then the lighthouse, then we go to the moon.
Yeah.
Which, like in all great video games, there's a moon level.
Yeah.
You know, Mario Bros. 3, Mario World,
Yeah, that's
Super
not
Mario Land 2. I'm only naming Mario games, but there's more moon levels. you
Mario
know.
Galaxy, literally every
Ratchet and
planet.
Clank probably has a moon level. I could be wrong. But anyway,
We weren't PlayStation kids. We were Nintendo
No.
and Xbox kids.
we weren't.
Anyway, but
Anyway.
you figure out when you go back to the iris is that the governor's like, good job, you're doing great. We need to stop the alpha sections. We almost have everyone on Hillys behind us, and then you get a radio from their chief.
Yep.
And right after you save Double H's life, if you talk with the guy Han, he'll be like, well, he said, he's like, great. He said, well, Peyj isn't the only one missing. He said our chief has gone missing. And this can be passed up. You can pass
Yeah,
this
you can
little
pass
thing.
it up. And I actually had that conversation. I'm like, oh, they have a chief? Interesting.
Yeah, and then you find out it's Peyj. And Peyj has been in charge of it the whole...
Of Iris this whole time.
Well, I'm not sure if it's Iris or just this section
he's
of
the
Iris.
chief. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of there are unanswered questions.
And
but
we're going to... I'm going to write this down. Keep going.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about this when we get to the...
They said,
thing.
but he tells them, he says, tell Jade to get the beluga and come up to the moon and stop all this stuff. And so then everything goes quiet, and they're all like, oh, he gave you this disc? And so if you look at the disc again, like, you figure out how to get to the spaceship, and then once you figure that out, you do some more things, and then you go to the moon. A lot of like little levels and stuff like that, because you need pearls. Pearls are currency. Pearls are good.
You need to find a spaceship. You
Yeah.
find a spaceship. You need to find such and such for this and that,
Yeah. And so then you get to the moon, which is called Selene. And what I love is when you first get to space, Jade's pointing out all the constellations, and she's like, look, she's like, Double H, she's like, we're in space. And it's that's why I kind of have a theory, is that Jade has never, like, all she remembers.
Yes.
All she remembers is Hillys. And like, maybe she remembers some of her parents, but maybe it's been so long she doesn't remember, because she's like, we're in space. And there's even a line of dialogue where Double H says, oh yeah, well, when we were in this campaign, we used this kind of spaceship, so I know how to fly it. And that's also a passable note of conversation. Talk with everyone in this game if you replay it, or if you play it or replay it. But there's like, you get to the base, it's surprisingly quiet. There is no security. I don't think that's either because the alpha sections just weren't expecting anyone. Well, then you get a nice big fat surprise. Well, two big fat surprises. The first one is that the DOMs are actually all on this base, and they have their own little area and stuff like that. And there's a part where Jade sneaks in to one of the sections, and she sees what they've discovered is called the DOMS priest, who's leading the DOMs, and the guy who runs the alpha section. You have to take a picture of him. And the guy, like, this creature is the same one that Jade had a vision of, and he's like, I'm dying. He goes, he's like, these miserable sacrifices won't do anymore. And that's all the people who keep getting kidnapped throughout the game. And he said, bring me the girl. And you're like, okay, what's that all about? But then you get another one, is you finally find Peyj. He's trapped in this prison. You have to go through a few little puzzles, and Jade's like, hey, can you hear me? But he doesn't respond. She goes, okay, I'm getting you out of there. And so you do it, and I love how this cutscene does not start with any talking. As you free Peyj, he falls on the ground. And then, like, she goes up to his arm, and, like, he's not moving. And then, like, Double H goes and he listens for his heartbeat, and he just doesn't say anything. He just shakes his head, and it's really quiet. And, like, you see the emotion in Jade's eyes. Like, you see, like, what I liked about this scene is that you see her eyes just kind of, like, moving back and forth, like a real person's would.
Yeah.
Like, and, like, you just see her, like, pick his hand up, and she's like, I'll come back for you. And, like, her voice is so emotional, and Double H just kind of leaves her there. And that track is a piano track, and it's called Unacceptable Losses.
Aww.
Yeah, and I'm just like, and I forever have that in my brain, because when I had Lorna play the game, she kind of lost it, and she's like, this isn't Spider-Man.
Oh my
the uncle
gosh.
doesn't die. And then you were in the room, and so you go, and it's just like, Miles, that's all it is, Miles. And then Lorna's just like breaking down, and she's like, that's not funny. And then she's going, they can't end the game like this. And then when Jade says, like, I'll come back for you, Lorna looks at me and goes, you said he wasn't going to die. And I was trying so hard not to laugh, because first off, I didn't say that, but I didn't want to tell it to her in this moment of tragedy.
Gosh.
And then after that, she's just like, first the children, and then the lighthouse, at least it wasn't the dog, but now the uncle. And so she just was so sad that, like, we have to finish the report, Miss Jade. She's like, what's the point? And so she's just like,
The world.
she's just so sad. And so you have to go do
One thing I would say about that whole sequence is it's very beautiful. very tender.
Yeah.
The shot of Kronk putting his head on Peyj's tummy was just very peculiar to me, and that's all I really have to say. It's very strange.
It's not weird.
It's not weird. It's peculiar. Like he kind of clips into Peyj's body. That's all I really have to say about it.
Thank you for sharing that with us. But you have to leave Peyj and you have to go take a picture. And then you have to, when you come back into the room, it plays the piano music again. And you have to leave him there. And like there's a thing where if you talk to it, Jade will go, Peyj, can you hear me? And there's just nothing.
Oh.
Yeah. And then you walk away. And then like a cutscene plays and Jade just has her head down and Double H is following
And then
her.
randomly she gets an email.
Yeah, she gets it. Okay, so this part's a little wacky.
It's real weird.
But plot demands it. So like one of the people at the Iris, they're like, "Hey, we just got an email from the chief. He's alive, Jade." And she stops and she goes,
and it's great. She's like, oh, "Okay, I know what's going on."
And she runs back, and Peyj is there, and she runs and she hugs him, and he picks her up and he like spins her around, and then they stop, and she just like kind of rests her head on his shoulder, and then she's like, very sneaky, hiding the code under the shoes. And then he's like, "Hey, you found him." He goes, "You didn't screw up my settings, did you?" And she's like, "I found him." She goes, "I left them as they were, stench and all, and stuff." And then like when she pulls away, she like puts her hand like with his, and I'm like, oh my heart.
So cute.
And then like the reason you find out he's alive is because Jade actually brought him back to life.
Yeah, apparently something unbeknownst to us about Jade is she's got them Jedi healing powers from the Rise of Skywalker, apparently.
Well,
unknowingly.
The Jedi Force heal has been around since,
Yeah, it's true. It's been around for a long time.
You
decades.
played Knights of the Old Republic.
I played Knights. Yeah,
know.
you're right. Well, they had to have. Yeah, you're right. So
yeah, but whatchamacallit. So like
that's a great point about Rise of Skywalker. But we're gonna keep going.
We're not here to
Good
talk
job,
about.
likes to defend it. Rise of Skywalker, the only person on the planet to do so. I appreciate.
We're not
it.
talking about that sci-fi. We're talking about this sci-fi.
Okay, yeah, let's keep going with this sci-fi.
But that kind of just shows you like, okay, they had an idea, but they can't say too much because of either time or budget constraints.
Yeah, we kind of have to wrap it up here, from
Yeah.
what you get as you're playing, as you get the sense of.
And so Jade tells him that the kids get captured, and he's like, "Yep, they're in this crypt area where all the Doms is. So we need to go send a message to the people of Hillys and that." So you go through some platforming things, some puzzles, which took me way too long. And
Really?
yeah,
I just looked up and down. I'm like, okay, I need to go that one. All right, let's do it.
I was like running on 3 hours of sleep when I was playing the end of Bianca Needle, so I was getting super emotional. But so you go through everything, you send the message to the people of Hillys, you show them that the Alpha section was actually meeting with the Dom's priest, and Peyj and Double H and Jade are saying like, "We've been lied to, don't trust the Alpha sections," and the whole population rises up. And
and the AI
and the AI helps.
narrates all of it and be like, "Don't worry, I got it." And then the Peyj is like,
El
Screw-o, like you messed it up. And then he's like something little piglet, and then something in Spanish, little piglet, and then piquito piglet or something like that. And then, then he goes and does the whole cutscene where he narrates it basically. And there's a hippo person you were saying or something like that.
Yeah, so
I thought that was Ming Su.
No, so if you
Ming Su's a Chinese walrus.
Yeah.
Is that a real thing?
Yes.
And then why is there a hippo?
So there is a hippo in the commercials when you're doing the races and they're advertising something. But then there's a hippo in the background and there's no explanation because you can't take a picture of this hippo for the deck for the completion thing of all the animals on Hillys. But I don't know why. I just found that out on the wiki and I was like, wait a minute. And I looked into the a cutscene. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's the hippo. I don't know why he's in this game, but maybe he was from the earlier version of the game. I don't know. But anyway, so you're all like, okay, well, everyone's gonna come up now. We better go save the
We gotta
kids.
get out of here.
And then all of a sudden, it's like self-destruct. It's like
Self-destruct in a minute and 90 seconds.
Yeah, and you have
start
to
running.
run out of there. And then all of a sudden, the bad guy, what's his name? General Kex, I think his name is.
Yeah, sure.
He has this like spider thing, and he pulls you in with a tractor beam, and you do a mini boss fight on the moon.
Yeah, in the spaceship. You're in the spaceship. You get out of there because you're in the transmitter like base in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get back on the spaceship with Peyj and Double H. You go out, and then he has a spider ship, and then he tractor beams you close to it so you can't escape. And then a boss fight ensues, and we go full Star Fox mode at this moment.
Yes, I could hear the Andross music.
Yep.
That part actually kind of reminded me of the end of that part. Kind of reminded me of Star Fox Adventures in the end, because the Andross is in that. That is a fight you have to do at the very end. Except
spoilers.
I
never finished it,
bro.
You've had 20 years, Jake.
You've had 15 years.
Lexi, it's 2025. That game came out like 21 years ago.
I feel old.
Or no, it was 20. It was probably 03 actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
But anyway, but that one at the very end, you have to do a space fight like that, and you have to focus on, yeah. And so eventually you take the general ship down, and then you have to go in it, and you have to go up and free the tractor beam, and the general's dying, and he tells Jade.
And for some reason, he likes poetry, so he keeps quoting like poetry or something.
I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Ah, little spider, I'm a spider. You little fly, come into my web.
That is not what he said.
Yeah, it says something like that. And then
Yeah.
like he ends it with like angels of darkness rise up, and then that's his last words or something.
But he does mention.
I'm sure it's probably like
He mentioned
from-
He says something to Jade that I think is interesting. Is he says they've been looking for you for centuries.
centuries. Yeah.
And he said, your parents are dead. And I'm like, how does he know her parents are dead?
Who is he?
Yeah. And so then when Jade looks at her hand, she has like that magic power thing that they showed in the flashback with Peyj.
Poor Celia.
Space powers.
Space powers. Space powers.
Space pens.
Yes.
But anyway, so
And
eventually,
yes.
like he dies. He did. And you're going to the Dom's base, and then the Doms send out bad guys, and then the Hillians show up. Then you and Double H and Peyj just go to the bottom of the crypt. And I forgot to mention, Jade's code name is Shawnee. We don't know why. But if you turn on the subtitles at the beginning of the game like I did, when Jade is looking at the creature that crashed into the lighthouse, it actually says Shawnee. And that's kind of what triggers her.
Oh, I didn't catch that in the beginning.
And even in the fighting music, when you fight the Doms in the beginning,
Shawnee.
yeah, it says that. And when I listened to that, I went, "Oh my gosh!"
Okay.
It was
So that was her.
foreshadowing.
Yeah, it was the whole name all along.
Yeah, and they told Jade when she joined the
Space
Iris.
Jesus is what that means.
No. But they even tell Jade at the beginning of the game, they said, hey, if you're going to join the Iris network, you need a code name. And she goes, well, just call me Shawnee. And yeah, and they don't say why.
Yeah, it's funny. She's the one that prompts that. Which
Yeah.
kind of goes into like
Who she
could be. But anyway,
so they get to the bottom of the crypt, and that's where they meet the Dom's priest, the big bad guy, final boss. And you
it's a
find
good boss fight.
Yes, I hated it. I did it the hard way though. But
Yeah, you're supposed to dodge, not hold down the button.
I did it,
which
where
you can still do, by the way. You actually
have
did
to
it that
time
way.
it perfectly.
You have to time it perfectly, and you did, which I was very surprised. So good job.
My sketchbook, I was so frustrated. I sat down with my big sketchbook and I wrote down, okay, gotta press this at this time, this at this time,
gosh.
this at this time. And I showed Lorna that. She goes, what is that? And I said, this is the end of the game. And she's like, I'm not ready. But in the game, they are very vague about Jade's origins, but they said that Jade is some sort of, like, they said Jade has the power to give the Dom's priest eternal life, and he's been dying, and that's why he's been kidnapping people.
Oh, to
He's
try
been
to
trying to
find
stay
that
alive.
person?
And he mentions, he says, oh, the pig has been hiding this from you. And Peyj even goes up and he goes, don't listen to him. And then Peyj gets captured again.
And then Double H fights with you, and then Double
He
H
gets captured.
But then, like, you finally beat the guy.
Well, like, he tries to hypnotize you, and halfway through the last stretch of the boss fight,
Oh yeah, it
the
inverts
evil Dom's priest reverses all the controls,
Yeah,
and you
it
have to
inverts
play
your
everything
controls.
backwards,
Yep,
and it
yeah,
sucks.
Left is right, and right is left, and up is down, and down is up.
Yeah, it's...
Which honestly, yeah, I think it's
So
fine. I
on
think
the-
it's fine.
So on the
They do that.
HD version, it's following, I think, the Xbox and the original Xbox controls. So B is the eat button. And so I kept pressing that, trying to do stuff. And then when the 20th anniversary edition came
Oh.
out, they did everything through the D-pad. And that is
Yeah,
a lifesaver.
That's way better. Yeah.
But Jade ends up defeating the Eye that is in this Dom's priest thing in a pretty cool, like, little jump cutscene where she
And
jumps up.
stabs it.
Yeah, she stabs it with her staff, and then after a moment, like the statue, she I guess she gets control of the statue, and she uses the magic space powers that she has. This is really stupid saying this out loud.
I mean, it's part of the game, so.
To bring Double H and Peyj and then everyone back to life. And then right as she's like floating in the air, like the Iris members come in and they're all like, what's going on?
Oh yeah, randomly during the space fight, the Iris members
Are
like
there.
or the Hillys people somehow get to the moon.
So
and they're like, it's told. Speaking of Rise of Skywalker, they all come in. They're like, "We're here to save the day with you, Jade." And then as you're doing the boss fight, time freezes. Like when you go invert, basically it freezes, and then they're like, "What's going on, Jade? Our controls aren't working," or something like that. But anyway, so.
But Jade ends up...
You fight him, you kill the guy, and...
You end up saving the world.
You saved the world.
What I love about the end credits is they show pictures that Jade took after they got back. And, like, all the kids are there. And then, like, the Iris members are at the lighthouse. She's taking pictures of the dog. And then, like, the kids are, like, putting on Double H's, like, armor. And then, like, there's a really cute picture that someone took of her and Peyj. And that was a beta, like, render that they did.
Oh, cool.
And then, like... And then you think, oh, this is really nice. Happy ending. Or is it?
Yep, this is the one that was cemented in my brain.
Yeah.
And what happens?
And so the game ends with Peyj by himself in the lighthouse.
Like
and
at the top floor that's destroyed, basically.
Yeah, the top floor that's destroyed. So, like, they had just gotten back. They haven't had time to rebuild anything. And he starts coughing, and he looks at his hand. And like Double H had that creature thing on him.
On his neck, yeah.
Peyj has one on his hand. And then
grows.
the game goes to black, and it says, the end.
Yep.
And...
What an ending.
Yeah, what an ending. Like, because like I said, they wanted this to be a trilogy.
Yeah.
The game didn't do good with sales. It didn't help that it released 3 weeks after Prince of Persia: Sands of Time.
Yeah.
And so it could be that. A lot of people think it was poor timing. And personally, I think it was kind of ahead of its time because the people didn't like the darkness of the game.
You know what this game kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of a little bit of Okami. Because that was, I think, 2005 or 6 on the PS2. And then eventually the Wii version came out. And yes, it was PS2. I see your confused face.
I've only
PS2,
played it on the Wii.
Yeah, and then it came out on Wii. Yeah, which then it really grew ground after that. But it kind of reminds me of like that in a way where it got some notoriety, but not until later on.
Yeah,
but I feel like the HD re-release on Xbox Live also helped a lot.
Yeah, so that because people, by the time 2010s hit, like it had been...
People had probably forgotten.
Spreading it
yeah, it's been
by
spread
word
enough.
of mouth.
Yeah, and
people had nostalgia for it. It had been almost 10 years since the game came out.
And with the rise of social media and stuff and little micro communities and all
digital
that.
Games.
And digital games and forums and et cetera, you kind of get the what's it called? The word of mouth kind of grew around Beyond Good and Evil. Like, hey, when are they bringing this back? Like Ubisoft's worried about Assassin's Creed, and all this other stuff.
One thing I'll note is that according to sources online, Peter Jackson got to play Beyond Good and Evil. Peter Jackson.
Like from hearsay.
From hearsay. A few sources do clarify this online. I could be wrong.
That he played it.
He played Beyond Good and Evil, and he wanted Mikael Ansel and his team that worked on Beyond Good and Evil to make the King Kong game that was based on the movie.
Oh, and Ubisoft did do that.
Yeah. And so they used the Jade engine because they were familiar with it.
Okay.
To make it.
Interesting.
But I think
That's
right
a cool
after that was when most of those people got laid off or they left the company.
Well, here's the thing. Mikael Ansel, I think, stayed along until Assassin's Creed was basically up and running.
It was like 2010 or 11 or something when he left the company.
Yeah, it was about there.
Because even on the Rayman and Rabbids game that came out in 2006 or 7, he was listed as being on that, but only as a creative consultant because Rayman was his character.
Yeah, he had his hands full with Prince of Persia, I think. I don't know if he necessarily was in charge of that, but he was in charge of Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big thing. That was probably the most notable IP, I would say, Ubisoft created.
Do you want me to say little bit of the history of the game before we go into anything else?
I would love to get into the sequel talk. So yeah, I think let's do your history and then or random facts, and then we'll get into the sequel discussion.
I didn't really finish all of my history stuff, and there may be some wrong things I got here, so please bear with
us.
Yeah. So
Google exists. You don't have to just listen to us.
Hey, if I am dedicated. I mean, I didn't put this in an MLA format. I did not double space this, but I studied and I wrote down the most important facts I thought were important to the history of Beyond Good and Evil. So
And don't be retarded and care about that kind of thing if
Will
you're
you
listening to
stop
an
saying
audio.
that?
If you're listening to an audio format,
will you stop saying?
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the people listening, which
You're
we love you. By the
offending
way.
people.
We love you, by the way. But
I
know your
apologize
limits.
again.
know your place, audience. No, I'm joking.
This is normal banter on Snarp Fangle if you are new to the channel.
Yes.
Sorry you had to hear that like what, 2 hours into the podcast?
Oh, I said retard at the start, so
Oh my gosh.
there we go.
So anyway, I could be saying the French names wrong too. So Michael Ancel
Yeah.
did the first Rayman games, and those were pretty successful. And after like 5 or 6 years, because I didn't know until doing research that there was a Rayman game on the Nintendo 64.
Yeah,
There was a
Rayman 3D. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And so
That's cool.
he wanted to try something different and move on to different projects. And it says that while he was working on
Rayman 2. My bad. Yeah. 2 was on
Rayman 2,
64.
yeah. The team discovered a bug where you could jump on a pirate ship and travel all over the map, breaking the boundaries.
Oh, that's cool.
And they said that they fixed this. And then the team started throwing down ideas for having that kind of a freedom in the game for like flying around, which is kind of what started Beyond Good and Evil. Because like you fly around, you go around, and like even though Hillys is small, it does feel very open in a sense. Like to the point where like you can go into most buildings that you encounter. There are secret passageways. There are lots of caves in the game, and so I think that really does give a sense of freedom. And they created a brand new engine, which was they called the Jade engine. And I've mentioned that throughout the podcast, so I'll just kind of skip over that. And it says that this game was the first and only time Yves Guillemot, who was
Yves Guillemot.
who was Ubisoft's founder and CEO. That was the only time he looked at the project and said, "I want to put money into this." And so he produced this is the only game he's noted to be a producer on.
Really?
Yeah. And so he put money into this.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there was some Blade Runner and Miyazaki movies were inspiration for this.
Also, one thing really quick in terms of engines, Assassin's Creed started with a brand new engine, like after Prince of Persia, known as Scimitar. Until 2009, at least according to Google Gemini here. And then nowadays it's known as Anvil. So, just something to be noted.
Yeah. And then it says, at one point in development, they got the team together and were trying to figure out problems that were happening with the game. One of them being that Jade's only weapon was her camera. There is test footage that shows that like she was able to kick people, and she did have like the little gyro disc thing launcher like she has, but her only weapon was her camera. And so that's kind of where they play testers were kind of like saying like this is kind of hard to maneuver around the alpha section guys without a weapon to at least protect you. So that's where the Daijo staff that Jade has comes from. The reason they didn't give her a weapon at first was because they didn't want her to be like main characters during that time that were like beat 'em up, shoot 'em up. That's kind of what I had going into the game was like, oh, well, I could just smack people with this staff. And then like the second playthrough through the game, I was like, I don't have to hit every single bad guy with my staff or knock him out and stuff like that. But they didn't want her to like they didn't want Jade to be like Lara Croft, I guess, like kick butt, masculine, like Indiana Jones type of just like rough and tough. They wanted Jade to remain like feminine, and like I'm not a feminist, but I just think that's
well, they wanted to make her feminine, obviously,
like,
but they also didn't
like
want her to make.
Yeah,
like I think that's what I get from her a lot, just by playing the game is she's kind of like a tomboy or whatever, But I think they added also a lot of motherly qualities to her, especially with the children, and especially in that scene where she's mourning all of this. Like she lost Peyj, she's lost the kids. That's her whole life, and her home's destroyed. Yeah, but they added the tender loving care of the normal qualities we consider them but they also made her, really cool and just cool and strong,
Yeah, I guess when they had that meeting about fixing problems with the game, they had several girls working in Ubisoft at that time, and so they brought them in and said, "Hey, is Jade a realistic girl character?"
Mhm.
And I actually found an article last year on Wikipedia, and it was about gender in video games, and I was like just skimming through it because I was trying to figure out how many video games have had main females as their main characters, and then it brought up Beyond Good and Evil, and it said that Jade and then another girl from another like point and click adventure game that came out like 3 years earlier were the only like two like female characters that weren't super sexy and stuff like that. I mean, Jade has a midriff, and in some shots,
It's the early 2000s.
in some shots you do see her like her underwear, like the top of her underwear, but that's beside the point. But yeah, so I thought that was really cool that like I just applaud them for like wanting Jade to be realistic and to yeah, she can be a tomboy, but she can still be a girl and stuff. And I, like you said, motherly qualities and stuff like that, and just like
she's willing to fight for her family, which is what I love about the character. Like, she's willing to go out of her way, and the self-sacrifice in general is really beautiful. Back on the engine real quick. The first one was Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, which was October 28th, 2003.
Well, that would make sense.
2 weeks later was Beyond Good and Evil on November 11th.
Well, that would make sense because during the time when they were developing Beyond Good and Evil, they kept having to take people like, okay, well, you need to stop working on Beyond Good and Evil. We're trying to do Prince of Persia.
We need to finish the engine here. This is our big blockbuster. But anyway, yeah, Sands of Time, Beyond Good and Evil, Prince of Persia: Warrior Within, the second game. Peter Jackson's King Kong, which is just, that's fascinating. So like 2 years later, as they're making the movie, he's like, yo, I need you to do this. So that's so cool. Then you had the third Prince of Persia game, The Two Thrones, then Raving Rabbids, then the TMNT game.
For 2007.
Yeah, from 2007. And then you had a Naruto game, Rise of the Ninja, Raving Rabbids 2, Naruto Broken Bond, and finally the Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands.
Don't forget Just Dance.
Was Just Dance part of the Jade engine?
Yeah. That
Really? No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you can look this up.
Okay, where did you find this?
It was on the Beyond Good and Evil wiki because they have an article for the Jade engine.
I'm on Wikipedia and it doesn't say it.
So type up Jade engine.
I did, and I'm here.
It was the very first.
So I'm going to fandom, like you said.
Yeah.
Which is listed here. It does say Just Dance in 2009. Oh, and James Cameron's Avatar. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
So James Cameron's
the Wii
Avatar.
Version.
Oh yes, correct. And Just Dance.
So Beyond Good and Evil walked so Just Dance could run.
Jade ran so that the panda bear could run. Yes. All right. Do you have any more of your facts here?
No, that's about it.
All
I
right.
didn't have time to write anything else. So
That's okay. Really quickly, I want to go over some of the stuff I wrote down for game mechanics real quick. I like that, even though I'm aware this is like an early 2000s game, I like the fact that, or I feel like if this was released today, we would have like items put in, for example, like that give you a stealth boost, that give you a damage boost, as well as a skill tree that unlocks different combat moves. I feel like I'm glad stuff like that isn't in this game because of this time, obviously. So they wouldn't have a whole lot of stuff like that, which I'm glad this game is better as a result for that. But, it would have been in the sequel if they did go through with the one in the PS3 and Xbox 360 era. I feel like stuff like that would be in the game. I already mentioned the stuff about the guards.
I would hope that if they did keep the original version of this game and like made it a trilogy, I would hope that they would keep the photo mechanic because that's what a lot of people liked, like taking the pictures and stuff like that. And even when I was like running through like the 20th anniversary edition, I was like, okay, I could take this, I could take this, I could take this, I could take a picture of this. And I had the fun. I was like planning out, okay, what can I take a picture of and how fast can I do it? Yeah,
exactly. And the last thing I have is music. And then we'll get into the sequel stuff.
Music.
Very beautiful. Lots of variety. Good mix of weird, diverse genres. We got a strange techno Rastafarian kind of feel with Mama Go Garage. We got some
Very
early
multicultural.
some early 2000s club music, tense music while you're sneaking around, and also great nail-biting chase songs, as well as the epic Dancing of the Doms, Also, the main theme is called In the Beginning, right? Or something like that.
It's just Jade's
It's just like the
theme.
main motif you hear.
Yeah, the main
Dude, that's the main motif of Princess Mononoke. Like legit, like it's missing 2 extra notes and then you got Princess Mononoke. But man, does it sound like I was humming it in the kitchen earlier and Adelaide was like, hey, are you singing, I don't know, some random song? I'm like, no, I'm singing Princess Mononoke. She's like, really? And I'm like, no, I'm joking. It's Beyond Good and Evil. But anyway, I love the music in this game. It's really cool. I need a deep dive into the album, but it all stands out. Like you go into the bar.
That Akuta House propaganda.
Yeah, that's the power, or whatever
No.
they say.
That like propaganda, and they go just a little bit.
Yeah. Are you ready to get into our film or sequel discussion? I'm going to start, if that's all right.
Huh?
I'm going to start, if that's all right.
Okay, that's fine with me.
All right. So I feel like, and this was like, I wrote this way early as I'm starting playing the game. So I feel like this would be a great film. But also specifically, I think you can make a wonderful animated film out of it. Like, give it to Universal or DreamWorks or as I've finished the game, this is my preferred pick, which is like Leica.
Like stop motion?
Yes. I think it could make for a really gripping animated stop motion film from Leica. Is it Leica or Lenka?
Either one.
Yeah, Leica. Or Leica. Like especially all the the limitations of the engine and of the game in that day stand out as a sort of charming flair, and it kind of already looks stop motion anyway. And also when you look at the character designs and the way they're animated and the way they're like portrayed in the art style, it's 100% Leica coded. And I would love to see a film like that, but
could I give my?
I would love to hear what you have to say about that, and if you want to see a film or a TV show or whatever.
So personally, I would think like films have limitations.
Yeah.
Like because like they've done film versions of like different. There have been different video game adaptations into films, and while they do have like elements of the game, there are shortcomings because you got to deal with with any media. You got to deal with the producers because the producers want one thing. And the creators want another thing. There's also the artistic element of it. So I feel like you couldn't put as much into if it was a movie. I would personally think it would fit better as a TV show. And like I sent you that document of what I thought if Beyond Good and Evil was a TV show, and I thought of like maybe 14 episodes.
Yeah, you have your whole list here. I don't know if you want to go into it, but you got it really well paced out.
Yeah, and like one of them would be like a
episode 4's title's really good.
What?
Episode 4.
Oh yeah, that's the name of my fan fiction, and like I wrote my fan fiction an idea of like, well, what if this was?
You got really good titles, by the way.
Most of them are based on just the show, on like the soundtrack and just elements of the series. The one episode that I wrote down here was just a flashback episode. It was episode 10. And it would kind of show Jade. What I would like if this really was an animated show is that Jade is younger. So she's like a young teen. And she's,
Wait. In the main story?
If this was like an animated show. So like it would show her, but she would be in her old costume, like in the beta design.
Oh, okay. For the flashback you're talking about.
Yeah, for the flashback.
Okay, thank God. I thought you were saying the actual story you want her as a teenager.
Oh, no. I like her as an adult.
Okay, good.
And that was one thing that they mentioned was that in the earlier versions of the game, Jade is very young. And she's like 16, I think. But when they were working on it, they said, well, you know what? There are a lot of young protagonists. Why don't we have a mature protagonist? And that's why they aged Jade up. And I think that fits really well with like her and Peyj's relationship, is that they're both working hard to like not only sustain themselves, but like sustain the kids and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think that really works as like Jade being older and stuff. But like if this like I would like a flashback episode if there was like a TV show, and I would like it if it explained like where she got the dog and when they got Secundo. like where they found him and stuff like that, because you really don't see any other characters with AIs or any AI companions.
That's a good point, yeah.
So I have a theory that Jade just like found him and she just got lucky and found him on somewhere random, and now he's with her. And like I love how even the official booklet says that Secundo and Peyj have this legendary rivalry, and like he still has to rely on Secundo to be like, fix the computer.
And it also could be a cool thing you can introduce because he is like an adult as an AI, right? It would be cool if you introduce it like she finds him as a teenager. And say, for example, like there's a lot of lore you could pull from this game, but you could add lore like AIs grow with their owners or whatever.
Yeah.
And this last owner was a teenager when he got abandoned, like from an AI, like an AI abandonment's a thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And this personal AI is a teenager. Jade finds him as a teenager, and then they grew up together or something. And then that's where the rivalry comes through.
Yeah.
There could be cool things like that.
Yeah, and I thought like that would be like it would probably be cool to see Jade like maybe learn from someone about how to use the Daijo staff. Like maybe it was a gift from, or she found it, or it was a gift from someone, or like someone just was like taught her, like this person taught her, and she uses that to like protect her and Peyj at one point in this flashback. Like it's just theoretically. And like if you know me personally, you know I am making this into a fan fiction. Like, but yeah, I would like that. I think it would just be cool just to have like, I feel like with an animated show you can kind of stretch it out, and you don't have to do 12 episodes. You could do like, if you want to fit more in there, you could do shorts, like animated shorts talking about the kids, like where each of the kids came from or something like that. I don't know, like it's just throwing it out there. Like I feel like you would have more freedom, especially with like a lot of animated shows going to like Netflix and going to like digital streaming services. Like they don't have the same constraints as a television show where you have to cut it short to a certain amount so you can fit in so many commercials.
I think if Ubisoft's smart, which they have a history of not being very smart in terms of business-wise, but well, business-wise they are, but not in creative ways. I would have to say that I personally think a movie would be better. Like, put this in theaters, make a bunch of money off of it. I think it could work. But I think a show is probably more better suited to it. And the way I would do it is you would take it and go to PlayStation Studios, and you would have it in that whole line of, you know, The Last of Us, God of War, and make a deal with Netflix or something, or Amazon.
Oh, no, not Netflix. Not Netflix.
No, it's animated, right?
No, did you hear about what Ubisoft did with Netflix, with Captain Laserhawk?
No.
So it's basically a guy's like fan fiction, and Rayman is in
it. That
and Rayman is like on drugs.
Oh wait, no, I'm thinking about the President's Show.
Yeah, so it's an animated show where all these characters are representing different Ubisoft characters, and the main character looks like Jade, and she has a pig companion with her.
What?
And Rayman is Rayman, and he's just on drugs, and he's a reporter.
This is a show on
This
Netflix?
is an actual show
that Ubisoft produced and gave a greenlit to.
Yes, and it came out about 3 or 4 years ago. It's called Captain Laserhawk. Lots of the Beyond Good Evil fandom does not like it.
Makes no sense. Fine, whatever, screw it. Give it to HBO. I don't care. But like, what I would do is, you could do the animated show if you want, and you could bring in the added lore that they're adding to this prequel or whatever.
Yeah.
That they added even to the 20th anniversary remaster. There's a lot of cool stuff you could do with this. There's a lot of this. The world is just unique, and I feel like it's primed for like a TV show adaptation. Specifically, you think you wrote down Adult Swim? I think that would be a great choice.
Or like even Amazon Prime, or like Amazon.
Well, you could do like Vox Machina or something like that. The only thing is they're pretty picky. Netflix isn't, so you could just sneak it in there. I would say either Amazon or HBO, and make an Adult Swim or something, and get something like PlayStation Studios attached to it, or maybe even Gendy's studio attached to it if you're doing HBO route. Something like that could work really well. But dude, a Leica adaptation of this, like if you look at Paramore, Coraline, the Box Trolls, like if you Kubo, if you look at Kubo, like this whole game is primed for a Leica film interpretation. And you could totally shrink this 8-hour experience, or even 6.5 hours if you're speedrunning, into a 2-hour experience.
I think
disagree. Really easy.
I would have to disagree on that.
All right, well then we're gonna have to disagree on it because I think a film with Leica, I don't know. Leica, I think they would do a really fantastic job. And I think that this could be put into as one of their big hits. I feel like you patch it up with the video games movies that are being made right now that are making good money. You pair it up with, the branding of Leica and their whole style. You can make this into a really interesting thing. Kubo, there's tons of fighting and action.
Yeah.
You can translate that into this when she's fighting with her staff, or bring like mixed martial arts into it, like we saw in the concept of the second game in the mid-2000s. Like, there's so much I think you could do and pull into the storyline, and I think it could work. But I feel like there's so much lore in the game, you could probably just make it into a TV series, and that would be easier.
What do you, the viewers at home, think about
What
this?
would
Do
you
you
guys
side
prefer?
with Jake or do you side with Lexi? Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, it's stop motion versus animated, so here we go. We're definitely not doing live action.
I thought,
with this,
well,
that's for
I
sure.
didn't mention it on my document, but I was thinking 2D. I don't think I mentioned
Oh yeah,
that.
I think it'd be 100%. No way this is 3D.
Yeah.
Even though you could easily translate this into a 3D show, like just the style. It's already 3D.
Yeah, but
It's really easy to just do that, and you could cut the cost down too if you do 2D, 3D.
yeah.
So,
Anyway,
but if you get Gendy or somebody attached to this,
Mm.
then it's over. Then you got it.
Alrighty, we should move on to our last section, the can of worms.
The
That is
Beyond Good and Evil 2 discussion.
the sequel,
Before I
or
get into that,
the next
or
one.
as we get into that, I want to intro with this. I want to specifically talk about game mechanics. Okay, so I wrote this up. I say this: if they do a sequel, Lexi, they can incorporate karate or kung fu or something into the combat at the start of the game. Imagine you're starting up the game, and there's that trailer that where Jade starts into a T pose.
Oh, that was
first
from
frame?
2009.
9. Yeah, that 2009 clip.
Oh my goodness.
They also added parkour into that clip, which was really interesting. Like
I
Assassin's
got like
Creed.
Mirror's Edge vibes.
I got
there.
Mirror's Edge, Uncharted,
Assassin's
Assassin's Creed vibes all over that clip. And it's fantastic. And I would love to get hand-to-hand combat. Like, imagine you start the game like the game Sifu. Have you seen that game?
No.
Oh, it's like all Bruce Lee hand-to-hand combat, really cool stuff, right? But then later in the game, you finally unlock your bow staff, and then you have your skill tree with your bow staff and your skill tree with your hand-to-hand fighting. And I think that could be really, really cool. Or heck, give her a ribbon and do something cool like that. Like she has a ribbon, she fights with a ribbon, with
She uses it as a whip.
yeah, like as a whip, or like there's a sword on the end or whatever. And you can bounce back and before you can swap in and out of these two fighting styles, like in the more recent God of War entries. I think in terms of mechanics, that's where I would love to see a number 2. In terms of a prequel, let's
We
just
didn't
start.
ask for a prequel.
We didn't ask for a prequel.
We wanted a sequel.
We wanted a sequel. They said, well, and they started with a sequel, and they showed a sequel, but we never got it.
Well, the E3 2008 thing kind of looked like a sequel because it's Jade and Peyj.
It's 100% a sequel.
And may I add,
think,
I would like
but
to note that
it's also called Beyond Good and Evil
2.
2.
So you think it
So
would
you
be
think
a sequel?
It'd be a sequel.
But
then,
no.
And I remember reading Game Informer all through the 2010s being like, where the heck is Beyond Good and Evil? Same thing with like Kingdom Hearts 3. Where the heck is Kingdom Hearts 3?
Oh my gosh, that took forever.
And then like, just other random stuff. But those were the two big ones. And then we get the reveal in 2017 with a monkey from the Better Man movie.
Oh, no.
Cussing out a pig.
So when that came out, that people were so
Oh, bro.
mad
It was
because
it was
can
so
you imagine
ridiculous.
like something you love and cherish, and then
Yeah.
suddenly this comes out, and it feels like someone just dumped a pail of dirty water on what you love.
I agree. Yep. Okay, so
I've never watched it. I've only seen parts of it
Yeah.
on mute because it is
it's
so
very vulgar.
It
Very
is
vulgar.
very vulgar. It is very like there's a lady with not just skimpy
No.
clothes.
We're not going to get into that. I'm just going based on everything that all the other stuff is whatever. But specifically the language, like I watched it right before we came over here and record, and I'm watching it on my phone, and I'm like, why are there so many F-bombs in this? Like,
Yeah.
why? This makes no sense.
It
It makes no sense.
there is no reason.
There's no reason. And you got this, British monkey who's basically the dude from Better Man, and he's cursing, and he's, they're getting chased on a they stole an M disc. They still have the discs, and he's riding on his partner's bike in the air. They're flying through the air on the bike, and he's like shooting at the gang members, the cops, whatever. He's like, boom, boom, mother effer, and he's so they're like flying through the air, and then like they finally get to the ship. You don't see Peyj. You don't see anybody you recognize.
No one.
And except for maybe the pig in the beginning, but that's just whatever.
That
and
pig
then
isn't
you
even
get the
Peyj.
and then you get the music, and that's where the trailer hits for me. I'm like, oh, dude, like you get that big orchestral theme of the main like motif, and I'm like, whoa, the nostalgia's hitting me right now. Or just,
How
good
does
music.
that trailer end? Because I never
So it
watched
ends with them getting the disc. They find some random planets on the disc. They zoom off into the space, and then the title drops, and it says Beyond Good and Evil 2. And you're like,
What?
What?
What did I just
What did I just watch? Until the year after, we get a second trailer,
At E3.
and we watch this together, and it's far superior to the prior trailer. In every aspect, gives you so much a better idea.
You actually see Peyj.
You
With
actually see
every trailer,
Peyj.
he gets
You
more
get-
hyper realistic.
You get good character interactions. You get the feel that yes, this is a family,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a really good trailer. It's pretty decent, and then it ends, and it ends with
A cliffhanger.
a cliffhanger, which is fine, whatever.
A giant ship
But
attacks
then
this pirate
you
ship.
kind of get the sense they're retconning some stuff, and we're gonna get into it now. But basically, the trailer ends with this whole crew on the ship. Half of the ship is destroyed, so people died. And Peyj is a cook, and the joke is he puts alcohol in the soup, and it's hilarious. And I'll tell you what,
the trailer
ends
with the alpha
with
section
the alpha
showing
section
up.
showing up, and they pin their ship together. And who walks out of the drawbridge or whatever? It's two alpha section guards accompanied by Jade.
And
What?
even Peyj is surprised. He's like,
yeah, even Peyj is
"Jade?"
surprised. Jade
And she has a sword, and then
she
she
has a
dashes.
sword.
It ends with her.
dashing forward like she's gonna kill them or something. And I'm like, what? And now the best part about this, the best cherry on top of this big stinking turd of a reveal, is that Ubisoft came out and they do the Ubisoft thing where they show a new game, a new concept in quotes, and then they say, this is the biggest game we ever have in development. It's going to be open world. You can do anything in
We
this
don't
game.
care.
And you could do all this shish and all this stuff, and it's going to be online multiplayer, and you're like, this is basically a repeat of when they revealed Watch Dogs, and it was basically like 30% of everything they said it would be and what they showed it would be. And it's like, I don't know, it's really frustrating to me. I'm at the time, it was very frustrating. Now, it was kind of
So-
cool to see the concept.
So I have.
What do you
seen-
think of all this, Lex?
Okay, so I don't mind the characters. By the way, I hate that monkey.
He's really cringe. I'm not going to lie.
I don't like him. But so here's the thing. I have seen people try and still defend this as being canon to Beyond Good and Evil, and say, and like, I'm not shooting this down, but I like this is kind of like plausible for me, is that this still happened before Beyond Good and Evil, the first one, and that Jade somehow lost her memory. And that Peyj took her, but like in defending, like in people's and Ubisoft saying that this is canon to Beyond Good and Evil, I'm like, did you not play the original game? Because in that disc that Peyj gives to Jade, he says
Yes.
20 years ago we came to Hillys, and he said
Mhm.
to escape the authorities.
And
I'm
she's like in her 20s.
yeah, she's in her 20s, and so like
And she was a kid.
yeah, and so we're like, they don't say how old she was. There's been some fan art of like, there's like a picture I have on all of my desktop screens of Peyj holding a baby Jade, and the lighthouse is like has vines growing up it, and so it's like been abandoned.
Aw.
And so I'm like, I love that picture, but
And then,
like,
then the Phil Collins starts playing, and Peyj is fixing up the lighthouse. It's the beginning of Tarzan, basically. You know? And every day wanna see the... I don't know what he says in that song, but it's that song, you know.
we were so tired.
Oh, we got.
But
Oh my god! I didn't even see the time. Okay. Anyway.
anyway, but it's like the game says that. So like you naturally
there's a
assume
certain amount of lore that
that-
they're totally retconning with this prequel.
Yeah, and it's like they don't even care, and like you're like, if you
And
want
then-
the fans
and-
to be happy,
and-
don't you want it to connect to at least something of the
So,
original game?
They released this, and basically, the whole thing I said about them promising a big open world and all this kind of crap.
We don't want it.
It's marketing talk number one, but also it's investor speak. It's basically telling the shareholders, "Hey, this is a big project we're doing, and you could do all this stuff." And honestly, here's the thing, Lex. I don't think if they did a sequel and it was just single player, I honestly don't think people would be satisfied with it. In all honesty, but we don't know. We don't know what the prequel is at. We do know that Mikel Ancel, who came back for the project, he left in like 2019.
He doesn't work
And
for
the
Ubisoft
project was
anymore.
rebooted in 2018 or 19, and then he left in like late 2019.
Yeah,
Which is
'cause-
like, obviously, it's very clear this game's never, ever coming out, at least this iteration.
also with
But, I'm sorry, you go. I was going to bring something up.
so
You go.
one thing I found out about Beyond Good and Evil 2 was that they had like it's been through development heck for some time. Like
yeah, like
there's
one
been the
iteration we saw, this is the second iteration, now that's completely gone.
well, yeah, and not only that, but like Ubisoft has had a bunch of like the sexual obligations thing that was going on.
They had a lot of history.
Weren't they
just-
acquired? Don't they?
Okay, so Tencent now owns a huge stake, like a big stake into Ubisoft, and they
Yeah.
specifically are focusing on like Assassin's Creed, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, and another franchise they own.
Yeah, and so people.
But anyway, it's only specific franchises.
yes,
They're leaving stuff like The Division out of that.
hmm
And also the Ubisoft, also Beyond Good and Evil's out of that too. Because
I
there's
was
been no Ubisoft
I was
games,
reading
or,
a website.
excuse me,
I
Beyond
don't.
Good and Evil games.
Yeah, I don't know how much of this website was true. I don't remember which website it was, but they said they finally last year in 2024, 2023, they finally found someone to direct Beyond Good and Evil, and they said, okay, we have it locked in. And then the person
Last year?
Well, I don't know if it was last year or the year before last year. I
Okay.
can't remember. I don't have the website link, and so like just take my word for it. This
All right.
I read this. They got someone in, they said, "Okay." And then early last year, the guy died.
Oh no!
Yeah, and so I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like maybe they should like this is at the point where I'm like, maybe they should just not do this, or at least not do a prequel. Maybe that's what's cursing this whole thing."
And that's what I think they could do, is because what did I even write down here in my notes? I was like looking at this all caps note. Sequel could be about finding. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. The remastered version we have, the 20th anniversary thing, that whole thing, spoiler alert, guys, if you go and find you can go and find certain items in the game, and each of those items, if you examine them, they have a code on them. And you can unlock certain like cache boxes throughout the world at certain locations, and with those codes, basically. And those items are tied to a certain character that is actually in the trailer for Beyond Good and Evil 2.
The last
prequel,
one that came
The
out.
last one that came out with the monkey, the curly-haired lady, the AI on the ship, which is also an interesting
the
thing.
Scottish
The Scottish guy was
mechanic.
playing, the mechanic, the Peyj, of course, and the chess dude as well.
Well, the mechanic is the chess
Oh,
dude.
sorry.
And
The
then there's
mechanic is the chess guy.
the Indian lady.
An Indian lady, yeah. So there's like all these people. Basically, you go and you find out the backstory of each of them and what effect they have had on Jade.
And that you actually see pictures of Jade with these characters, but she's a little kid. So
But she's a
like,
little kid, yeah.
She's
So-
like it's like from like when she was like 4 to when she was like 6 years old.
Yeah, so that
would mean like
Yeah.
if something happened where when her and Paige left these group of people at a certain like if she left them like at the age of 6 or 7, that would mean that Jade is actually like 27.
Yeah.
And she does look like she's in her 20s.
Yeah, she looks like late 20s, just barely, she's still in her 20s.
Yeah.
So what I wrote down here, the plot of the second one, which I think might have been, it's definitely not what they were going to do, but what they could do now is they could take all that feedback that they got from the fan base, excuse me,
If they're smart.
if they're smart, they could take it to where here's how you incorporate. I'm going to explain the plot, how you incorporate multiplayer, how you incorporate like kind of a live servicey thing as well, and you can kind of make it all work. So you could take the sequel, and it's Peyj and Jade, and they're at the lighthouse, right? This is after the second one, and Peyj finds out that his love that is mentioned, or the chick that loved him, is alive.
Yeah.
And that's the catalyst of the start of the story. And as he goes along, and Jade, they make the decision to find this woman that Peyj loves.
Her name's
like
Uma.
Uma, to find Uma, they discover there's others that are alive as well. Because it's never made clear to us. I assume it's made an assumption that they died or something.
Yeah.
And that Peyj is the last one alive, and he took Jade with her. And that's what we have. So anyway.
But, could I say my little headcanon of what I would think?
Okay, yeah. What do you think happened?
So, like, if I would imagine, like, even if they did do a prequel to Beyond Good and Evil, like, I would like if the second game kind of began with a few missions where Jade and Peyj are still working with the Iris. There's still people from the Alpha section who are scattered, and they're trying to get rid of them. And then what I kind of envisioned was that someone tries to go and, like take out one of the Iris members.
Are you talking about, like, your idea for the sequel?
Like, for a sequel.
Oh.
I'm gonna get to the prequel thing in a second, but you were talking about it, so
Could I finish the sequel thing real quick? Okay. So you have the sequel. They start out. You could still have her working with Iris because it turns out her lover's in a different planet.
His lover.
Yeah, his lover is on a different planet where the Alpha section is very alive and still like operating, right? So you can still incorporate a lot of the themes and the objectives and gameplay from the first one with taking pictures, cataloging stuff, getting paid by Iris, all that stuff. But you also have the combat revamped, and you have the kung fu thing, you have the
martial
bow
arts
staff thing, the martial arts thing. But also in each city you go to bring down the Alpha section is an underground underground world that the Iris is different from the Iris. And that's where your live service thing happens. Your live service thing happens with the different fighting arenas. And that's incorporate, because you have to, like, if you revamp the fighting and revamp that mechanic and you bring it into the cities and the kind of like in the recent Indiana Jones game, there's fisticuffs, right? There's boxing and punching, and that's like the combat, right? In the Indiana Jones games, in each place you go to in the game, there's a tournament. There's a boxing arena, and it's secret, and you got to find it yourself.
Oh,
it's really cool.
Okay.
And so you could do something like that, but it's more profound. And everybody tells you in the city when you get there, "Hey, I see you got a bow staff. Are you like a fighter?" And they're really excited because that's the culture. And then you can translate that culture into a live service aspect. And then you could have weekly challenges. You can do other stuff like that. That's how you can pitch it to investors.
What would also be cool is if, like, Jade got caught and, like, you remember that Samurai Jack episode where they get stuck in the arena?
Yeah,
that would
you
be
could do
cool
something like that.
If
like a
that
whole
was like
arc
a
with
mission
that.
and Jade got stuck in there with, like, other members of,
that
like,
would be dope.
the pirate crew.
The
And then at one
Rastafarian
point
rhinos are in there, man. They got to fight their way out.
And then, like, she has to fight one of the members from the pirate crew, like, her
yes, and
that would be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be dope. Like she's got to fight that monkey.
No, she got to fight.
Or better yet, she has to fight the AI.
No,
and the
she
AI
has to,
took over a
she
robot.
has to fight the lady with the who gave her the goggles with the curly hair.
Yeah, I guess you could.
Because she was the one who taught Jade how to fight.
We'll
and
say
stuff
like
when she
the
was
final
little.
boss is her, but there's a boss before her who is the hardest boss you have to fight. And once you fight him, you're like, all right, here we go. You're gonna get her. But you just went through that huge boss fight, and then she sees you, and she's like, "Oh, it's
Like,
Jade."
This isn't good.
Yeah, like okay, and then the jig is up, and then you fight your way out or whatever. Like
Yeah.
the Dome of Doom Samurai Jack episode could just be one of the worlds you go to,
Yeah.
and that could be just a small like stopgap in the story, and you could do a whole bunch of stuff.
And we
with
would
that.
they would continue the whole thing with like Peyj being infected.
Yep.
Like she
You could
loses him
totally-
at one point.
Yep, she loses him at one point. Or better yet, the Doms kidnap him at some point. Maybe not kidnap him. We're repeating things at this point, but something could happen to him where he's sick. She has to find an antidote for him. He's out of commission during one of the
But then when she
planets.
comes back, he's gone.
Yeah, and you could also treat this kind of like Knights of the Old Republic, where you can take all these areas at like each of, or even Jedi Fallen Order. You can go to these planets at any order you want.
Yeah.
But if you go back, you'll unlock stuff. If you go here, you'll unlock stuff.
Yeah.
If you're losing Peyj, you can still try to find him and continue the story, but you can go back to the other areas if you want.
Yeah.
You could also bring back Double H as a crew member, or you're even your pilot.
What would be cool is that if they...
And, sorry to interrupt you, the your AI dude,
Yeah.
bring Diego Luna in, baby.
Oh my
Let him
God.
talk about it. Yeah, get Diego Luna in there. And
What I think would be cool is if they made like, yeah, Jade is the main character, but on like they would do like missions.
yeah.
And then like certain missions, like maybe something happens where Jade is out of commission for a while because she used like the Dom's powers.
Oh, that would be
and
cool.
it drained
And
her.
who do you have to play
And
as,
so
though?
then you'd have to play like Double H, or you'd
Yes!
have to play like the lady with the curly hair, or you'd play the cat lady and stuff. And they would all
Yes!
have their own weapons and own like.
Oh, that would be so cool. And that's where the more of the live service thing comes in, where you can go down to these places in the actual single player game, but there's arena mode where you can have your own fighter or something or whatever. There's ways to do it.
Yeah, and so yeah,
And then how would you end it, Lex? Would it be like they
I would
found
like,
out the monkey died, thank God. The Indian lady, turns out she's going to stay at the Dome of Doom. His lover
is still alive.
is still alive.
So what I had an idea was,
Does Peyj die in the end? Like,
so what I would think would be cool was that if there's like multiple endings, so like 3 endings. So like there's one where Peyj is alive, there's one where Peyj dies, and Jade kind of goes AWOL, and then it ends with the trailer from the E3 where she's evil. And she helped bring
that would be cool.
That
Like
would
she succumbed to the Doms as like will or something. And you could expand the story of that because it's so vague in the game, like the first game. You're like, is she like the chosen one in quotes or
we're
whatever?
like, why is she having these visions?
Yeah, why?
And is
like,
she
there's
the only
obviously
one?
something connection. Like, I think of like the Arbiter from Halo. Like he's having like he has this connection to the Covenant, but he's disassociated from it. Except in this case, maybe Jade's parents had something to do with the Doms, or maybe they were pregnant with her at the time, and they got infected or something. That's how you could do it.
So I have a theory with all this 20th anniversary stuff is that,
and you could still keep the 20th anniversary stuff, as is, because they bring all that backstory into that. And the lady even says, like, Jade, we love you. You were such a good kid, and seeing you grow up changed us.
Yeah.
And that's why,
so
there's so much you can do.
I have a bit of a, like, this is my headcanon, is that, like, the way they talk, the Dom's priest talks about Jade is, I'm thinking that the Doms were maybe like this really great ancient civilization, but they wanted immortality. They wanted control over everything. So the Dom's priest created this entity that was alive but could keep giving eternal life. But like, there's a thing where he says they tried to hide you, so I would die, and he said, "But I became stronger." And so they said he's been looking at for her for centuries. So maybe these followers of the Doms, or like the original Doms, hid like this entity. I'm thinking maybe it was like some sort of crystal that was alive or something like that. And it just disappeared. And I'm thinking that because the Gadas, or the Gada crew is what they're called, are pirates, they stumbled upon it thinking that this was some sort of thing. And it's kind of obvious that Jade doesn't look like her mother or her father. And like, so like, I'm wondering if something happened where it took their DNA and it adapted the entity Shawnee into a person, so it hid.
Oh,
And they were the only ones who knew about it, so they just took Jade with them. And like, because obviously, like, there are a bunch of like,
that's really
misfits.
That would be cool.
Yeah, so obviously they're misfits, but like they're a family unit, and like Jade was the only kid probably.
Yeah, the only kid on the ship, basically.
And like they all treated
you go
her.
full Avatar too.
Yeah, and it's like referenced how like
but it's like they love her. It changes like they say they're pirates.
Yeah,
like that's obviously what they are in the prequel. But something happens to where, and I think actually you see that a little bit in the second trailer in 2018, where they're not just pirates. They're more of a family in that other one.
Well, like
and
they all know each other really well.
And
like
they all
the
know each other
like,
really well.
We got
like
a
it
drunk
seems
pirate.
like something's changed in the sense. Like it seems like introducing that kid factor could be really cool, and you could do flashbacks.
Well,
You
yeah,
could do you could pull full Last of Us Part 2 and have flashbacks of a younger Jade
yeah.
with Peyj, and she could be 7 or whatever,
Mhm.
and she could be on. That's how you could open the game.
Yeah.
That's how that could be the opening tutorial, is her following Peyj throughout the kitchen and him training her and like doing the cooking. But in Jade's mind, she likes fighting or whatever, or there's other ways you can do it. But she goes to each person on the ship, and we're introduced to those characters in the opening, and they teach her how to fight, teach her how to do the photography, teach her how to do all the other stuff, the acrobatics. So that's what the monkey's going to do. And when he comes in, the monkey's going to teach her acrobatics. And those characters are introduced at the beginning because you're going to go find them in the second game.
Yeah, what I liked about the flashbacks when the pirate captain was talking to Peyj, and she's like, be sure to tell Jade. I think something like my also headcanon is that something traumatic happened, like maybe Jade tried to use the powers of the Doms to like protect the pirate crew, and it was too much because she was just a kid.
Yeah.
And so maybe like that caused her to like partially lose her memory, because the way that her mom is talking about it, like, don't let her forget this. Don't let her forget that. And it's like, did something like happen to Jade? And that's why she doesn't really like, it kind of gives the sense that like, does she remember like any of these characters? And
yeah, well, that's going to be the thing that brings it back, because she doesn't remember them.
Yeah.
But they remember her.
I love what when it shows Jade with the monkey, and she's like, we'll never know the half of their monkey business. I wanted, that's actually the name of the track. The track is called Monkey Business, and it's just an instrumental of the theme of the game on a guitar. But I wanted to do a picture of him with Jade, and he threw under his arm. He's like, come on, kid, let's go do some crime. And she's like, yeah.
Oh, it's so cute.
But like, I thought like I just think that would be like a cool idea, is that like, yeah, they were already like kind of like a family unit, but Jade kind of made it more complete.
Yeah. And also, one really quick note about the trailers. The trailers seem really generic. I'm not going to lie. Like, I love the culture. I love the like perspective. I love the future they created. But honestly, I already can see where the story was going to go. It was going to be like, Jade grew up on the ship. Jade left them. Jade comes back, evil. And then she erases her memory, or something happens. And then as a result, all the people die or whatever. And then we go into the second game or the first game or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it was going in a direction that just seemed very disjointed and very corporate.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like it was,
they
like
didn't
the
play the original game.
And the original
saw the girl and
creator
said,
was
okay.
attached to it,
Yeah.
So, it's just a bummer. I feel like I feel like they could still salvage it. Like, you don't even have to do full Ubisoft. You could outsource it to somebody. You could outsource it to, I know this sounds kind of crazy, but you know how Tencent has a big, strong, like, payment, who's a Chinese company, has a strong investment in Ubisoft.
Didn't the original Beyond Good and Evil have a Shanghai unit that worked on the game?
Ubisoft is located, they have a studio in Shanghai already.
Okay, because
So
I think I
here's
remember
what
seeing that in the credits of the game.
Yeah, and Ubisoft has plenty of personnel to work on stuff, but they're all focused on other things. You could outsource this. You could get the Wu Chang Fallen Dynasty guys who do oh shoot, what's it called? The guys who did Neo. You can go get the guys who did Neo to do this. You can go get the Wu Chang Fallen Dynasty guys that came out this year, last year, and have them do it. Or better yet, get the Wukong dudes that did that monkey game, the Odyssey of the West game that came out about the monkey and stuff. That was a Chinese-based studio. Get them to do this. And bring in that Ubisoft sensibility from the other studios. Like, there's some options you could do, like, just off the top of my head. Or better yet, my dream would be have Saber Interactive do this after the next Warhammer Space Marine game. Because you already have people that know how to work in sci-fi already.
But what do you, the viewers at home,
yeah, what do you and the viewers at home want from us? You want a prequel, sequel? Would you want a film, or would you want a TV series? So, yeah.
Are our opinions valid? No, we really don't care about that. But but what do you think about our thoughts and our headcanons and our opinions about the game, the intro, the sequel, prequel, whatever that we were just talking about? We'd like to know your thoughts.
And one last thing, if you've made it this far in the podcast,
We might have to split into
obviously, no, it's going to be just one thing. Lexi, we've had a 4-hour podcast out before, so.
I don't even know how long this has been going on.
3 and 3. So it's time to end it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost midnight at the time of recording.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I got to go.
We have work in the morning.
Yeah, we got work. So anyway, the things we do for you guys. We love you. Oh, and that quote I wrote down. It's too tight for me, Miss Jade. I will cover your rear, Miss Jade.
Of all the quotes of the game, you had
That's
to do
the one
that.
that really stood out to me. There's a lot of bangers from Mr. Carlson and Peters, which I love all of his like little quips and stuff. It's really funny.
Mhm. There is one thing before we end I wanted to kind of talk about.
Yeah, go for it.
So the reason I am very obsessed with this game is because not only because of the nostalgia attached to it, it's also because of when I played it in 2024. So like I did not know that it was the 20th anniversary edition was in development. And then when I saw a trailer of it at work, I was like, "Oh my gosh, no way. It's on Switch now." Like that's really cool. So I played it when Jake here was in last year. He was what was your job again? Well, officially, what was your job?
An operator for. I was a trainee, but I was a trainee and operator for a private contractor with Cal Fire. So I drove a water truck, basically.
Yeah.
Is what the equipment we had. So.
Yeah. And so he went on a few fires and like it was kind of
It
like
was also my first season,
yeah.
2024.
And it's not like it's one thing when you talk about fires and you see firefighters on the news, but it's another thing to see like that there's someone up there that personally like helping to battle those flames. And you had come back from I don't know which fire it was, and I had bought in the game I had bought in the HD version of Beyond Good and Evil, and I thought, you know what, Jake's here, I'll just start it. And you were playing. That was the night you sent like 20 voice messages to Josh, and in Peyj's voice said a bunch of different things.
Was that before I went on the first fire, or after I came back after the?
I think it was right before the Fresno fire.
Oh, so yeah, I came back that day.
So you came back and you were hanging out at the house, and I was playing on the Xbox, and I was just laughing, and we were all joking and doing things. And then the next day I went to work, and when I came back, Mom's like, "Oh yeah, he got called on another fire."
Yeah, I left in the middle of the night. I stayed up till midnight on Twitter, regrettably, and I woke up at 3 a.m. and my boss called me and said, "We got to go."
And the Fresno, wasn't that the Gold Complex you were working down there? The Fresno
it's
fire.
It's called Lightning Complex. Yeah.
So he was down in Southern California, and then up here in Northern California, another fire happened, and it was called the Park Fire. And unlike that one, so every now and then, like in wildfire season, we'll get smoke from those areas in where we live. This fire was started, and it spread literally like a wildfire, and it like every night I would go out and look at the mountains because we're in a valley, and I could just see the fires just kind of eating away at the mountains, and it was one of the most terrifying things. Like it was at a distance, but like it really scared me. And then you and your boss actually went to that fire, and at that time, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was just so like mortified, like how is this happening so close to me, and how is it that like you're out there doing really scary things? And it really like I was really scared, and so I really held on to Beyond Good and Evil because of like you and me. Like I started playing it when you were there, and then you were gone, and I was just like, why is this game so wholesome in the middle of all this darkness that's happening in the game? And so I kind of held on to that, and I like wrote fan fiction about like Jade and the kids, and just her just being like an older sister to them. But like it helped me cope with just all the scary things that were going on. And then you were gone during your birthday, and also Grandpa's birthday, and like I associate Peyj with our grandpa because our grandpa was a farmer. He was always fixing things. He always looked like he was mad and grumpy, but he like
he was always in pain with his knees and back and shoulders.
But like I always remember him giving me hugs and just loving me and loving us all. And so that also hit me too because I was missing him. And so like Beyond Good and Evil just really was that outlet for me to just be like, okay, just focus on this until like obviously I was focusing on God too, but like I just had something else besides that I was just like, okay, this is helping me focus and helping me cope more with what's happening in the real
comfort
world.
you while
Yeah.
this is happening.
And so that's one reason I absolutely loved Beyond Good and Evil, and I got obsessed with it last year, was because it just really affected me. And I was just like, I'm gonna see Jake again. Like, it's like, I was so glad I got to see you on your birthday and stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an interesting time, and most likely I'll be gone during that same amount of time. We'll see what
We don't
happens
know.
this year. But I was it's funny because I had pretty much no time. I told you I was going to play it on the Steam Deck, but then I found out it needed internet, so I couldn't play it. And
Yeah.
so I really didn't
I wasn't
play...
expecting you to like play it.
Yeah, well, I didn't barely play any video games during that time, because like when it was time to rest, I just wanted to eat or sleep.
Yeah, you're using all sorts of
Or I
energy.
had to go do something for the boss and stuff, because I was doing basically transport that whole fire season, and then I worked a couple night shifts as well. So, but yeah, it was one heck of a first season to be part of. There was like 5 fires total I was a part of, and then yeah, it was weird. I was back that night after sites over in Calusa, and then literally that night we hung out and had a good time, and then I stayed up late on Twitter, and then I went to bed, and I was staying at your guys' place because our AC was out.
Yeah.
So that's why. And then, yeah, I went down to Fresno that night, came back up a few days later, and that next day, Thompson Fire north of Orville started.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people in Orville, and it was scary for them. And then Park Fire started, and I knew a ton of people were affected by that. So,
And like I
was
said,
crazy.
VBS was happening.
and VBS was
and
happening.
you were gone, and I was
Well, I was able to come one day to visit, I think.
yeah, but I remember just
It
sitting
was
there
funny.
with all those kids, and I'm just like, this must be what Jade felt like when Peyj was gone, and I was just like so like mortified. I then like I was on the
Everything
verge.
goes back to Beyond Good and Evil.
Yeah,
Well, it's what you were into at the time, and I think that's the beauty
Well,
of
like
the media we consume through the roughest times. Like,
because
well,
like in 2020, like Overwatch and musicals and No Straight Roads helped me deal with just the loneliness that like we had lots of people in the house during quarantine, but I still
Yeah.
felt very lonely. And so connecting with fans through Overwatch and No Straight Roads really helped me deal with that. And then like in 2019, when like we lost 2 of our grandparents, like I listened to nothing but Hades Town, and that helped me also kind of but I kind of burned myself out on that. I specifically remember being at a college library, and I was supposed to be doing my I was supposed to be doing my homework, but I wrote nothing but like just the story I was working on, and then I kind of just crashed, and I was just leaning on my computer, and I'm like, I'm done. I can't do anymore. But like I think like there are certain things that like I associate with certain parts of my life because they helped me deal with either loneliness, or they helped me deal with traumatic events that were going on. And like I didn't fully rely on those things, but they were like an element that helped me deal, like a sort of therapy.
to comfort you and to be there for you, even if people couldn't.
Yeah.
There's actually been people say that about this podcast, not like in the same amount of like detrimental pain, but I don't know, the similar life scenarios. But there's been people that come up to me like, "Hey, I've been going through a really rough time, and let me tell you, your podcast has been a bright spot."
That's cool.
And I was like, "Well, thank you." I mean, me and my co-host David, like we do some good stuff here, and we try to make it entertaining. That's the goal, is to make it entertaining. I hope this was entertaining for you guys.
Well, I would like to end my little thing with just one of my favorite quotes from the game. Is it still recording?
Cover your rear end.
No,
It's
the part after the Cyclops fight.
Carl St. Peters.
Jake literally likes Double H.
Dude, if they do an animated show of that, Lex, Patrick Warburton.
Yes, that's what we need.
That's what we need in this world.
Yes, that way.
Is Double H played by Patrick Warburton?
Yeah,
because it's perfect casting.
My line, one of my most favorite lines from the entire game is after Jade saves Peyj from getting eaten by the Cyclops. And he goes, "Thanks, Jade." And she's helping them up. And he goes, "If it wasn't for you," he goes, "I'd be on a silver platter with an apple in my mouth." And she goes, "Shut up. You're making me hungry. I'm going to regret saving you."
That's great. That's awesome. So, well, you want to end it there?
Yeah, I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah.
I think we've been going on long enough.
Well, Lex, we did it.
We did it.
Finally got through and did a peak analysis of Beyond Good and Evil.
It was a what?
And we never have to do it again.
Hey, I'm willing to keep going. I have lots of stories involving Beyond Good and Evil.
Well, we'll end it there. But what I will say is I'm excited to do more video games. I know what I want to do, and I won't reveal it because it's already planned for the future. But what other video games would you be interested outside of No Straight Roads?
I would say the Professor Layton series.
Okay. Like the whole series, basically.
It depends.
Maybe a look back on it.
Yeah, and like how the movie
Looking
is
back
canon.
at what the professor did.
Like the movie is actually canon to the games.
It's a good movie, too.
That is a good movie.
It's a great film.
You're not even like a big fan.
I'm not a big fan at all, and it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's a good anime movie. Like I don't know, maybe the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, because those ones, there's most people who have played them can say that the story is really surprisingly good, surprisingly dark at points.
Yeah.
But yeah, more video games. I like talking about video games because they're fun.
Yeah.
And I think I've noticed a lot of video games like to cover topics like death of a loss of a loved one and like really serious topics. And I think it's really interesting that people are using video games to kind of explain that medium or to explain that part of a person's life that's really hard to get through and stuff. But anyway, I would
talk
more.
Yeah, we'll talk more about them. There's one where me and David are planning on doing a peak analysis of. That'll be probably in the fall time. We'll have some time before we get to do that. I'm also gone during the summer a lot. So if you or Adley and Chelsea want to come on and talk about some video games from your childhoods or our childhood, your kittyhood. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. That's
penned first on Snarp Fangle.
Yeah,
Kittyhood.
yeah, copyright 2026.
5.
Anyway, but yeah, if you guys want to come do an episode about whatever while I'm gone, if you want to do a deep dive on Hades Town, feel free to come back and do it.
Careful what you wish for.
I will not allow the epic thing because it's my podcast.
Because.
Also, before we even do a deep dive on the epic musical, can we please just wait for it to go to Broadway, or at least let it get announced that it's going to Broadway? Because I feel like it's inevitable. Like in 5 years, we're going to have it. But that's a topic for another time, I think. So,
yeah.
But if you guys want to do like Hades Town or talking about video games from your childhoods, feel free to come back on some week and do it for while I'm gone. Because I know David's.
We need to do a podcast about Twilight Princess because there's so many video essays on just that game.
It would be fun to actually do a podcast about
the multiplayer.
Oh, dude, I forgot that exists. That came out last year too.
Yeah.
Well, also, there's a new Banjo-Kazooie mod pack I wanted to tell you about later on, but I'll do that later on. But
Banjo and Kazooie, it only makes sense if you have nostalgia.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll bid you adieu on this episode of Snarp Fangle. Thank you for being with us these 3+ hours. And again, with Lexi, it can't be a short episode. So I can't wait for the next. I can't
help it if I'm passionate and have facts about the things I love.
I can't wait for you and whoever else to come back on and say some like 3-hour discussion about, or no, 4-hour discussion of Undertale. I'm pretty sure that's an inevitability. So.
Well, it turns 10 this year.
Man, I can't believe that. 2015 was a seminal year for video games. It was the year after the terrible 2014. You had Witcher 3 and Undertale, 2 of the greatest RPGs ever made, arguably.
I think we all need to go to bed.
All right, we'll see you guys next time. And remember, if you're lost in the woods or if you're lost in the Hillys, don't forget to stick to Jade and Peyj.
They got your back.
And then Snarp Fangle on.